na yo hey, yo ani na yo hey, yo ani na yo hey, hanasiwa hanasiwa, hanasiwa hanasiwa, yo ani na yo hey, yo ani na yo hey, yo ani na yo hey, yo ani na yo hey. Hanasiwa, yo ani na yo hey, yo ani na yo hey, yo ani na yo hey, yo ani na yo hey.
All right. Good morning. I know we weren't on the agenda officially at this point, at this hour, but I just wanted to say a few words about this group here. They're all students. My name's John Williams, and Sisseton, Wahpeton, Dakota Sioux. I've been in the Southwest since I was 2 years old, so I'm kind of a Southwest grown person, but you know, one of the things that I've always felt in my travels around is music, and you know how healing it is, and how a lot of natives, especially in the urban setting, there's kind of like this distance between actually doing music and then listening. I feel that music should be a part of every family, every school situation. And my goal with this group is I want them to provide some inspiration for others to get involved in the performing arts. But also, you know, the idea of such a dynamic group coming together and working together. I think that's personally as the sponsor, I think that's one of the biggest accomplishments that I can say that I've achieved, is to bring these students together. They're gold, they're gems, they're awesome. You know, I'm gonna go around to each one, and we won't disrupt. We're gonna do an honor song, but we're gonna swoop up and then swoop away. You know, this is gonna be the time where we talk, okay? But I wanna, and it's almost that time. There may be a few stragglers, but I'm gonna have each student introduce themselves, their name, their tribal affiliation or background, and we're proud. That's one of the things that I'm also happy about, is the different ethnicities that make up this group, you know, and working together. And really my whole goal, and I even saw them just now, I'm constantly looking at these guys, they're family, they watch out for each other. They were all strangers. They all watch out for each other. They really, I try to give them, you know, a lot of responsibility. They chose those songs. You know, I know I bellow a few things out in terms of how long to extend them and whatnot, but let me go ahead in your grade.
My name is Cody Buchholz. I'm in 5th grade, and I like the drums.
Pueblo Nations right there. Come on up.
Ja te she sequoia cells yin she set na bitli nishle tatna zani bashichi nana shajadine e dashiche todichini dashanella. Hello, my name is Sequoia Cells. I'm 15, a sophomore at Volcano Vista High School, and thank you.
Ja te she edo mai gishi nishle shiro toda goja nishne tutso ni bashichin ki ani deshanella nanashteza tachitni deshache. Hello, my name is Maya, and I am 17 years old, and I go to Sandia High School.
Hi, I'm Jack Ferdine. I'm half Swedish, half German. I play bass here. I'm a 12th grader at Albuquerque High School.
My name is Marcelo Fallingstad. I am half Brazilian and half Norwegian. I am 17 and I go to Del Norte High School, and I'm a junior.
There we go, right there. Let's give it up for them. That's a nice background right there. You guys,
na waje leche kuna chikute wana leche kuna impate na waje leche kuna chikute wana leche kuna impate na waje leche kuna chijute wana leche kuna impate na waje leche kuna chikute wana leche kuna impate. Leche kuna chijute wana wana Leche kuna chijute wana wana Leche kuna impate.
Alrighty. Alrighty. Good morning, everyone, and let's give a round of applause for Mr. Williams and his Native American group for their honor song. Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. We would like to welcome you to APS's Spring 2026 Tribal Leadership Consultation. We want to thank our tribal leaders for joining us today. As a Native American student from APS, I'm honored to have you all here today, and thank you for being part of this event. I'll do a small introduction of myself. Hello, my name is Nabahi Larak. I am Dene. I am a student from Sandia High School, and I am truly honored to have you all here today, and I want to truly welcome you all for today. School-wise, I am interested in marketing and management because I enjoy how ideas connect people and how leadership works behind the scenes. Outside of school, I've had chances to be involved with NIAC, Native Organization Youth Council, and I have also worked with NM Native Vote, which has led me to grow my interest in community involvement in politics. I am also a four-time varsity wrestler, and how wrestling has taught me a lot about discipline and perseverance, but also importantly, it is something that I genuinely enjoy and take pride in. Alrighty. Nextly, I would like to, it is my honor to introduce Governor James Naurato from Santa Ana, Pueblo, who will lead us as...
Thank you, Tamu. Good morning, everyone. James Naranjo, I'm the governor of Santa Clara Pueblo, and I'll open up as we start our meetings. I'll open up with a blessing for each and every one of us in your respective way. Let's all pray for our students. What a wonderful job they did, that they continue to grow and prosper and become successful. Let's also pray for our servicemen and women that are out at war, protecting our country, the ones that are at home, the ones that have gone before us, our veterans. Pray for your individual self, your individual families and communities and reservations where you come from, with all the challenges that we face in our daily lives, the uncertainty in Washington, all the challenges and all the things that our children are facing, the drugs, the alcohol, the bulliness, the peer pressure that goes on each and every day, that we continue to protect them and guide them, that they do become successful. And we want to thank our teachers and our cooks and our staff that are teaching our children to become productive citizens in this United States. And we bow our heads down to you for your leadership. The young man here taking that responsibility to grow and be someone successful. So this will be kind of like a translation in my language, what I'm going to say. And of course, our language is important, to learn your language and to learn both ways, your Indian way and the Western society way. We live in two worlds, and we just want to open up with our respect to each and every one of you, and that you respect our different cultures, our different ways of life, because we've been here since time immemorial, and we're not going anywhere, but we certainly need your help and guidance, because no one's perfect. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart to allow me to do this. Kundawa. Thank you, Tamo. Whenever what you said here in the Nandi Waba, by Kid Kuda for a hinch up for Nick Wavi, projects at or Hong Kayat or what in the Wagri, Nick Wavi, Tim Jong, who know the Hapa Ogipe, by Kid Cham, by Kid Arkin Call, Nick Wavi, Wake Jar, West Quellerman, who APS Napor, he won a Pundi, he won a Sogiri, Nick was son of or we party oil me, Dagin and Hana care. We siki pueri, we second a pueri, oho how we watch it, mo pink beer, something, or pumpy, tampe, or parking us, when Nungi Inge, Puntama walk, or Haje Hans on my hut, Agiamu. Nick Wawi Cambo, channel, he won a pundi, he won a sogiri, Nick Wawits, eho, new annual Tarajia, and Muagri, never. A why you said, oh, why you could join a Muagri, we think, why, yay, we had it there, we had it, Nick Wawi, and Muagri. Nick Wabi Hakam and a movie, Tewahi and a movie, Hakam, Nick Wabi, up Oingipe, sing what we'll weary, sing what we'll be ha. Nick Wab biking a channel, biking up in Hoovery, Nick Wan and be said, oh, we'll move over the Vimangiri, but Kiribit Ori man. Now we told an engine movie, what's a being Ihui, Hoke, Yake, Jake, Puke, or Tihe, her hands up the E. Biking a coop up for Nick Wabi to John and a movie, Hop Oingipe. Nick Wabi up in person for with the whole Ive. Nick Wabi up in person for we walk to hearting, picketing Hasaku. That Kirby Wayini, Hoke, Yake, Jake, or Tihe Hans on Piri. Nick Wabi a Squellerman in the Mutagin and Hana Kewembo. Nick Wabi Hagite, he wouldn't a Pundiri, he wouldn't a Sogiri. Nick Wabi Watsi or Tihe Hans on Piri. Nick Wabi up in who, we up in Hanoi Pay, we up in calling Hinho. We were for your Jordan Watchman Hinho come. My blessings to you, the kings that we all in the respective levels that we pray to every day, and our village and our people pray in the respective, and that those prayers that they give to us and to me, I give it all back to you so that things go well. And thank you again, and God bless each and every one of you. Thank you, Ms. Campos.
Thank you, Governor.
Alrighty, let's give a round of applause for James Ralta from Santa Clara for that beautiful blessing. Alrighty, next up, if you will all please stand again for the presentation of colors. We will now have the presentation of colors from Sandia's Air Force Junior ROTC. We will have the Pledge of Allegiance sung by Cody Buckholz from the Native American Performing Arts Group. Please give them a round of applause. Go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Go ahead. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to our republic, for which it stands, for one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Left. Face. Forward. March.
It's all good, buddy. Right, go ahead and go. Alrighty, next up, I'd like to welcome Dr. Gabriela Duran Blinky, Superintendent. Oh, you all may be seated now. Sorry. I think they're doing the honor song. Alrighty, now we will have the honor song by the Native American Performing Arts Group by Mr. Williams.
King of the sky, lift up your spirits up and carry us high. Soaring the moon that floats along, take away the weak and make us strong, make us strong. Strong, make us strong, strong. Oh, great eagle, king of the sky, through the air upon your wings we glide. Soaring beauty, true native sons, for we are now the chosen ones, the chosen ones. The ones, the chosen ones, the ones. Oh, yane, ya, hey, yane, yo, hey, ya, ella. Oh, yane, ya, hey, yane, yo, hey, ya, ella. Hey, ya, hey, ya, hey, ya, hey, ya. Oh, great eagle, king of the sky, lift our spirits up and carry us high. Wings of strength that float along, take away the weak and make us strong, make us strong. Strong, make us strong. Make us strong. Oh, yeah, bro.
Alrighty now. Now, can we give a warm welcome to Dr. Gabriela Duran Blanqui, and Superintendent.
Thank you and good morning. I want to begin this morning by expressing my deep appreciation for your presence and your partnership with us. Tribal consultation is not a formality for us. It is our responsibility and it is a relationship. The work before us requires exactly what these meetings are meant to provide: honest dialogue, shared purpose, and a commitment to doing better for our Native students in Albuquerque. APS is in a period of real change, strengthening literacy and math, redesigning our schools, and expanding personalized learning so that our students see themselves in their education and feel supported in their future. At every step, we are asking a simple question: are our decisions improving opportunities and outcomes for students who have been historically underserved, including those named in the Yazzie Martinez decision? For our Native students, that commitment shows up in real ways. It shows up in language preservation, the growth of Navajo and Zuni programs, the Native American bilingual seal, and educators who are preparing the next generation of language teachers. And it shows up in culturally grounded learning, mentorships, outdoor learning, and hands-on science and engineering experiences that connect our students to their communities and to the world. And it shows up in academic support. Indian education resource teachers who are working directly with students, culturally responsive instruction, and programs like JAG that help students build confidence, skills, and a strong sense of belonging. And it shows up in the systems we are building, aligning our budget, our staffing, and instruction so that our Native students are not an afterthought, but an intentional focus. You'll hear more about these investments shortly, including expanded language programs, experiential learning, college and career readiness opportunities, and strengthened structures for Indian education across APS. But none of this matters unless we do it with you. Your guidance helps us see where progress is real and where we still have work to do, especially in areas around attendance, student discipline, student well-being, and ensuring our supports are culturally grounded and responsive to our students. And later this afternoon, the school board and the cabinet will sit down with you again. I look forward to those conversations this afternoon. They are essential to our shared goal, creating a future where every Native student in APS is thriving academically, culturally, and personally. I thank you for your leadership, your wisdom, and your continued trust in us, and I'm grateful to walk this path with each of you. And now it is my honor to introduce someone whose leadership is historic for our school district. We are fortunate this morning to be joined by the APS Board of Education President, Ronalda Tom Morito, the first Native American to hold this role in our district's history. Her lived experience, her advocacy for Native students and families, and her deep commitment to equity strengthens every part of our work across Albuquerque. So please help me in welcoming President Tom Morito.
Good morning, everyone. What a pleasure to be here. For those of you who've never seen me before, my name's Ronalda Tom Morito. I've worked strongly for our kids for the past 20 years in helping our children with disabilities, not only across New Mexico, but also the nation. Specifically, when we try to look at not only Martinez and Yazzie, but what is that voice that is missing? And being on this board has really helped me to understand that my role and the leadership that it takes to not only sit on this board, but to recognize that we serve 65,000 students. And so coming to this board, I recognize that not only being Native American, but also looking at the historical barriers that have really made a strong difference in why our children don't succeed. But it's also understanding our histories and where we come from. My parents were byproducts of the boarding school era. My great-great-grandmother walked the long walk of 1863 when she was only 7. The separation of parent and children has been historically the pattern of what education has done, not only throughout our history and time, but is currently still doing. So it's one to help not only my present board members, but also the administration. How do we create balance within an education system that not only turned us, well, those of you know, education was predominantly set to take our lives as Native people. So as we move forward, not only being president of the Board of Education, it's to recognize that we are in a new place, but that doesn't also say that what has happened is forgotten. We still have our park down on Indian School where 35 children were buried and nobody knows who they are. Those are the significant issues in today's society. It's also to ask ourselves, are we seen? Are we heard? And do we currently know the issues that our children are taking on? I know there's a lot of barriers, and I hope within the time that I'm here that I can do everything I can to set the balance within education. But I thank you for this opportunity, and I will speak to those later. But I can't wait to meet with the tribal leaders as a board member and also with my fellow board members who are going to be here presently. So thank you for this time. Thank you for not only acknowledging your presence being here, but that also says your children matter. So let's also think about how we, as Native people, can resonate with protecting our children. So thank you for this opportunity, and I'm really grateful to work in partnership with APS, but also to sound the great voice that we are here as Native people, and we are gonna make a difference. Thank you.
Alrighty, let's give a round of applause for Miss Rolanda Tome for her well-spoken speech. Alrighty, next up, I'd like to introduce Nicole Lovelace, the chair of APS Indian Parent Committee.
Good morning, everybody. I know it's early, and I do appreciate seeing everybody's faces and driving all the way up here. Thank you. My name is Nicole Lovelace. I am the chair for the Indian Ed Parent Committee, and I'm super, super excited to be here and kind of nervous talking. But I also want to ask our tribal leaders to stand and introduce yourselves. Yes.
Thank you, Nicole. Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good start to this good day that we're going to have today. Ted Garcia, Lieutenant Governor for San Felipe, Pueblo. Happy to be here.
Kishi Kotonawandake, Virginia Chavez Lechina, Homanadi, Yato Kakwit down Donago Charlie. Good morning. My name is Virginia Chavez, Councilwoman for the Pueblo of Zuni. So a pleasure to be here with you all. May you all have a blessed day.
Good morning. Kai tawa hopa kchai trash wa kai otse. Wa tawa to shine me kawai yakuku chinish hanu tse stara kwashti. I'm the first lieutenant governor for the Pueblo of Acoma, and I hope you all have a good day and learn as much about APS. And I hope your travels here were safe and also going back home as well later on. But thank you all.
My name is Edward Wimaitiwa, Councilman, Zuni Tribe. It's nice to see all these happy faces, warm faces.
morning, everyone. Paikem Sitron. Tin Hana Sota. Dolo AOS. This year, I'm a Lieutenant War Chief, Virgil Valencia.
Koitsi Hoppa. Paikem Sitron. Si Hana Sota Yorit Asisha. In English name, my name is Gerald Ortiz, and I'm the Lieutenant War Chief for San Felipe this year.
Koitsi Hoppa. Yo Paikem Sitron. Si Hamasu. Si Sisha. Bishkari Maya, the old Zekumitsu Kosa Kashta. Good morning, everyone. Colonized name, Christopher Trancosa. I serve as the head fiscali from the Pueblo of San Felipe. Hope everyone has a great consultation today. Thank you.
Ohayo gozaimasu. Good morning. Hajime mashite. Dr. Lisa Mari Tsuchiya. Watashi wa Nihonjin desu. And I am Japanese. I'm Assistant Education Director here for the Pueblo of Jemez.
Good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. My name is Dr. Robert Basurto. I'm the Education Director at Sandia Pueblo.
Good morning, everyone. Education Administrator, Pueblo Sandia. My name is Nico Otero.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Marcelino. I'm from the Pueblo of Zia, but representing Pueblo of Acoma.
Kuatsi haupa kaita wat straight rash kwaika yuze. To shiname haitu it's este ushat hanusta. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the consultation. I look forward to meeting and greeting each and every one of you. My name is Roseanne Pascual. I am the Education Manager for the Pueblo of Acoma.
Good morning, my name is Erlinda Concho. I'm from the Pueblo of Acoma. I'm a language assistant.
Buenos dias. Goatsi helpa, kaito helpa tu guys straight trash. Washiname goik tranco ese oshachanosta. My name is Patrick Ortiz, and I'm from the Pueblo of Acoma with the Department of Education as the language coordinator. I just want to wish everybody a good morning, and let's have a good dialogue today, a successful day. Tome main hopa se harsumeku metsi nu ashkita na krus. Mayon se nine, idea where se umas hopa se traiwa matsni. Tawa.
Keshe kodonawan doke. Oh, Norman Kuyatile Shiltona Quadan Pula Chico and Charlie. Good morning, it's good to see you. I come from the Pueblo of Suni, former governor. I'm now the Associate Director for the Center for Native American Health. And I appreciate all of you being here, advocating for our students. I know it's a difficult time trying to figure out what's next in terms of this administration, but it's through our education of our children that we're going to move forward. So thank you so much. Pleasure meeting all of you. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. Hello, good morning, everyone. Yat Aben. Shikoro ek oge enishlendo twitch eatni epashis chindo tachini dashachedo clash chanela. My name is Andy Nez. I am of the Weaver clan, born for the Bitterwater people. My maternal grandfathers are the Red Running Into the Water people, and my paternal grandfathers are the Red Bottom Cheek people. I come from the Great Navajo Nation. I sit on the 25th Navajo Nation Council. I am also appointed to the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. So glad everyone got here safely, and have a good day, and looking forward to the discussion. Yeah.
Tata Nana Harinwem, Mopoyo van Heremba. I'm Charlene Lucero, and I'm here for Governor Eugene Giron from the Pueblo of Isleta. I'm also from Isleta, and he sends well wishes for everyone today and good thoughts for a good day. So Hadkem
Good morning. I'm Michael Chermeyer from Department of Education for the Pueblo of Isleta.
Good morning, Huaca. My name is Dr. Olga Banik Skinner, and I'm an academic success coordinator with the Pueblo of Isleta. Good to see you.
Good morning. My name is Cristal Suazo. I'm from the Pueblo of Pohuaca. I'm here representing Governor Roy Ball of the Pueblo of Pohuaca. I serve my community as the director of the Education Department.
Thank you, everybody, for introducing yourselves. And again, my name is Nicole Lovelace. I'm the chair for the Indian Ed Parent Committee. I'm also the CDC Tribal Ambassador for Learn the Early Act Signs, and I'm also from San Felipe and Isleta and Laguna. So, here we go.
Second Tom, good morning, everybody. I'm Jeremy Oyenki. I'm the Director of Youth Learning and Head Start for Santa Clara. I'm also the Vice Chair for the state's Indian Education Advisory Council. Good morning.
I'm James Naranjo, Governor of Santa Clara, retired lawman. I'm also the chairman for the 19th District in Albuquerque, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
And I'm also gonna have our Indian Ed Parent Committee that sit on the committee to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Nicole. Good morning, everyone. My name is Miko Miller. I am the newest member. No, actually, me and Mr. Hubble came at the same time, so we're fairly new, but it's great to see all the tribal leaders in this room. It's wonderful to hear all the words of encouragement. Thank you, Governor, for your words this morning. It's always nice to hear your language and our language, and I wish everyone a great consultation today. Thank you.
Batu Washte, Nakina Mills, Ignaciapi, Kiksto, Tate Jikalawi, Little Wind Woman. I'm from the Oglala Sioux tribe from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. But I have two kids here at NACA, one 3rd grade and 9th grade. That's why I was late today, because they have a 9:15 start time. So I apologize for my tardiness. But I also sit and I'm the at-large parent rep here for APS, but I also am the Tribal State Policy Program Specialist for National Indian Education Association. So I wear many hats. So Chante Washte Nape Chuzapi Kiksto, I greet you with a warm heart.
Kotonawan doke ho Ivana Bisanti Lechina, home Ashina, Destry the Flora Romancito Lechina. Mula Kwetdan Anshek Wawan Chatle. Good morning. I'm from the Pueblo of Zuni. My name is Ivana Vicente. I have a son who's a sophomore at Del Norte High School and an alumni from Del Norte. He's now at UNM. This is my 3rd year on the committee, and I'm a special education teacher at Painted Sky Elementary School, and my role on the committee is a teacher representative. I'm also a mentor teacher with the Special Education Teacher Training Program. I welcome everybody here, and thank you for being here.
She Homer Hubble Dashajin, the Betlajan and Slido, Hanagane Dashaja, Trachine Dashachido, Trutichine Dashandalota, Nenshla. I'm of the Black Sheep clan. My father's from the Warrior clan, the one who walks around. And my maternal grandparents are Red Streak running into the water. And my paternal grandparents are the Bitterwater clan. Thank you for all coming. I really do appreciate the introduction in your native tongue. It warms my heart. And hope to see that more of that as a member of the Indian Parent Committee. Thank you.
And so I would also like to introduce our APS Indian Ed staff. They work really, really, really hard, and they're very, very well respected.
Kevin hello, my name is Kevin Atholi. I'm a APS Indian Ed Department elementary resource teacher, and it's nice to meet you.
Good morning. My name is Shannon Romero. I am Kochiri Kiwa and Dene. I am a secondary resource teacher. I'm also the Indigenous Knowledge Keeper intern mentor.
Good morning. I'm Carrie Kirkhoff. I'm the elementary resource teacher at Governor Bent Elementary. Great to see you all today.
Yat e she ya Charlene Smiley nishe aro tentaris ade enasha do tratnesa ne inishli do trachi bashishi do kinlachi dashichi do traba dashinale. So I heard a lot of connection with my second clan, my dad, and also my first clan, which is Tratnesa ne the Tango clan. So. And I am Navajo language teacher here. I teach. I started out with the elementary. Now I'm working with the middle school and high school students teaching Navajo language and the dual credit.
Hi, good morning. My name is Roberta Armijo. I am a resource teacher at Hodgen Elementary.
And I just want to give a round of applause to our Indian Ed staff. They do work really hard with our students. So I think we're kind of, oh, back here, huh? Okay, I'm going back here. Oh, no.
Good morning, Yate Benesh, Shannon Johnson, Dashajana. Twittich Inin Shledot Sanjikin and Bushes Chin, Twitsoni Dashachake and Lachini Dashanale. My name is Shannon Johnson. I am Bitterwater, born for the Cliff Dwellers people. And my maternal grandfathers are the Big Water clan, and my paternal grandfathers of the Red House clan. I'm originally from Sabadelkai, Arizona. I'm a Diné language teacher for high school. I also do dual credit for the Institute of American Indian Arts as well as SIPI, Southwestern Indian Polytechnical Institute. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Richard Ulibarri. I am the elementary manager for the Indian Education Department. I work with our preschool through 5th grade children in APS. Thank you all for coming today. Your presence is so valuable here, and I truly thank you for sharing your time with us today.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kevin Naranjo. I'm from Santa Clara Pueblo and San Ildefonso Pueblo. I work as an Indigenous coordinator for the Indian Ed Department. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Terry Sloan. Diné and Hopi, born of the Kiani, born for the Utodlidi, and my Hopi grandfather's clan is the Fire Clan. And the City of Albuquerque's Intergovernmental Tribal Liaison out of the Mayor's Office and the Office of Equity and Inclusion. I'm also on the APS Indian Ed Policies and Procedures Committee. Good morning.
Gohatsi se hopa wahiname yewie ustra chanusta diami washtista hatsat tsitzira. My name's Brandy Ami. I'm from the Pueblo of Laguna. The village of Masita is my mother's village. My clans are Big Sun, Little Eagle. I currently serve as the liaison for the Office of Native American Affairs for the City of Albuquerque and the Mayor's Office of Equity and Inclusion, along with Terry. And I'm here to support in any way that I can, both the community and tribal leadership as well.
Danjo Hadiansi, Shizi Tammy Lambert, Alero clan, and born for the African American. I am the Government Affairs Director at the Pueblo of Laguna, although I'm enrolled at the Hickory Apache Nation. So I'm looking forward to today.
Morning, everyone. Say up, Josh. It's good to see everyone here this morning again. Pueblo of Laguna, Jeff Gaku, the council representative, also a part of the Ed priority team for the Pueblo of Laguna. I kind of thought we were going to get away from not being introduced, sitting right here, way in the back. But we did come with our lawyer. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone have a good meeting. It's good to see everyone here. Already have a couple questions written down in regards to how we can take advantage of some of the individuals in the room. And it's no disrespect, but that's networking, right? And trying to figure out how you fix things or make things better. So.
Ang bawas tayo midagya by tayo chimnega hudisna wad open us situa wakbetua I hangtuna na iya shija jamacha shajamitawo ismakpia jamagibi. I'm Heidi McDonald. I work for One Generation and I'm on the Indian Policies and Procedures Committee. Thank you.
Danjo, Dr. Halen Muniz, Hickory Apache. I work with the Department of Education as an education specialist.
Danjo, hi, my name's Tammy Salazar. I work with the Hickory Apache Nation Department of Education.
Good morning, Yat. My name is Darius Smith. I'm the Executive Director of the National Indian Youth Council. We also go by the Native Professional Advancement Center. Thank you for inviting me.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarita Arcaro, and I'm from the Pueblo of Santa Ana. I'm the Program Manager for Santa Ana Education Department.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Edward Garola, Education Director for the Pueblo of Santa Ana, representing Governor Armijo from the Pueblo of Santa Ana.
Good morning, Bernadette Pantia from the Pueblo of Zuni, Division Director for Education and Training.
You can't hide from me.
Good morning. My name is Kaylee Hohola. I'm the Truancy Coordinator with the Isleta Truancy Department.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yolanda Beta, Truancy Department Manager for the Pueblo of Isleta.
Goatse hopa, gucha nate sitra, mawahanuch kashkasti shisha. My name is Sienna Pino. I'm the Student Success Coordinator with the Pueblo of Zia. Have a good day.
Goatse hopa, paitam sitra, soneshto yano, chichayosu sisha, Education Director yosu, suitsum cha hewa kashreit, Lieutenant, Bishkari Dinan yosu itsuit. Jonathan Pino from the Pueblo of Zia. I serve as the Education Director, and this year I'm also serving as Lieutenant Church Fiscali.
Yeah, Bennett. My name is Aaliyah Robinson. This is my service dog, Laura Robinson. I'm the Education Service Coordinator for the Pueblo of Zia.
None of you guys, huh? You sure? You guys don't want to introduce yourselves? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for introducing yourselves. I know that takes a lot to just build up the voice, but we all appreciate you guys coming, and the whole point is making a better future for our children and for our people.
All right, let's give a round of applause to not only yourselves, but but to Nicole Lovelace. Alrighty, now we're gonna begin our morning session. So please silent your cell phones if you haven't already. And let's give our attention to Dr. Antonio Gonzalez, Deputy Superintendent of Operations, and Sherry Jett, Chief Academic Officer of APS, will be presenting APS strategic plans. Here you go, sir.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome once again. It's an honor to be with you
and it's an honor to share just a few slides before I introduce our Chief Academic Officer, Sherry Jett, who will really get into detail as to the work of the strategic plan. So thank you. Thank you for the honor to begin this day with you today. What I'd like to do is begin with what guides our work. And what guides our work is a plan, 4 goals that really guide how we address the work of every single department, every single employee within the Albuquerque Public Schools as our North Star or as our plan. These goals guide our why and what we do every single day. And we are halfway through a 5-year journey. So 2.5 years ago, these goals were adopted by the Board of Education after several meetings throughout the community. Many of you may have attended one of those meetings at one point or another where voice was collected. What is the voice of the community? And through discernment and the wisdom of the board, 4 areas were identified to guide the work. And they were broken up into 4 areas. The first area had to do with our elementary school student population. And that's really looking at the area of early literacy and how we assist our students to really become strong leaders at a very early age. The second area is goal 2, which has to do with middle school and math proficiency. How are we working to make analytical thinkers and proficient math students? The third area had to do with high school and goal 3, and that's really the preparedness for college and career as we look at different areas in terms of advanced placement student enrollment, international baccalaureate, dual language, including the bilingual seal in a second language, including and celebrating our native languages. And our fourth and final area has to do with our goal 4, our skills, habits, and mindsets for student success. How are we monitoring things that perhaps aren't tangible, but are very important, like perseverance, self-regulation, social awareness? How are we looking at these things to make sure that we as adults within our schools are aware of how our students are learning and growing? But what's really important, what I really like to stress this morning, is that there's a great power in the monitoring of these goals. And again, credit to our Board of Education, who really sits on a monthly basis to monitor our progress or lack thereof in our goal areas. And the power is that they are broken out, especially in the area of goal 1 and goal 2, by our Yazin Martinez student populations. So really looking to see how our students are faring in a very specific way and breaking out the data in a way that really looks us and holds us accountable to really being faithful stewards to what the voice of the community was at the beginning of this journey 2.5 years ago. And through the leadership of our superintendent and through the monitoring of the board, we're really excited to say that we've been on track for virtually every monitoring visit except for very few. And we can share that in detail as the day goes on. So we have worked very hard as a team with our schools to really meet what that voice of the community was, but taking that and then even being more specific to evaluate it through the lens of our Yazi Martinez groups, including our students with disabilities, our Native American student population, English language learners, and economically disadvantaged students. So we look at the whole, but we also look at these different student groups. So this is the work that guides our district every single day. And as you can see through this graphic, it's important to know that there's strategy behind working to build early readers or strong math students or students who are college and career ready. The strategies are here that we work to really guide and be accountable to in terms of our daily work. So we value high quality professional development, recognizing that all of our educators need the most current professional development, timely and relevant PD. We work in the spirit of our community, working to celebrate a community identity through our community schools. We recognize that individual support is necessary for our students in many cases, and we're working to really polish what does high dosage tutoring mean, and how do we meet the need of every single student. Really deeper learning with looking at students as assets, looking at our community as assets, and seeing how we can celebrate the very best of our community by giving an enrichment model through our Genius Hour at our elementary schools. We celebrate the teacher in recognizing that there is no better coach for teachers than a master teacher, and really investing in our schools with a position entitled our Teaching and Learning Coach. And going back to the data, we recognize that really having student success systems, looking at the data from attendance to discipline data to grades, how are we catching early any struggles that our students are having? So on the, I guess, left-hand side of the screen, your right-hand side, we also have the redesign models that Chief Academic Officer Sherry Jett will really dig into, but really a specific strategy at our elementary, middle, and high school, celebrating the individual student and the work of teams to really support the work that we're doing. Can we go to the next slide? And as we look at these 4 goals, and as we strive to meet them in a very tangible way through progress monitoring on a monthly basis, this isn't something that we do annually. This isn't something we do every other year. We're held accountable to meeting these goals through progress monitoring every single month, through a different goal being really looked at and broken apart and subject to questions from our board on how we are faring in these different areas. But as we were working on these goals, we came back to what our profile of a graduate is. So through these 4 goals, we cannot lose sight that we really have a very important sacred responsibility in really building up young people that once they cross the graduation line, meet these characteristics, the profile of a graduate. And we can see here that this is really our commitment, our covenant, our promise, that through the work of these 4 goals, we are working to realize that we are building, supporting, and enhancing every single one of our students through the different grade levels to be these critical thinkers, problem solvers, good communicators, engaged citizens, growth mindset individuals, socially and culturally aware, innovative young people, collaborative, someone who perseveres and advocates for themselves and their community. And these weren't just nice words, although they are nice words, they're great characteristics that we came up with in a conference room. But really this work was really defined by different partners in the district from multiple departments and through multiple stakeholder groups. So that's what we strive to do with every single one of our students in Albuquerque Public Schools. And to get deeper into the work, I'd like to invite our great Chief Academic Officer, Sherry Jett, to share the work of APS. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, and good morning, everyone. My name is Sherry Jett. I'm the Chief Academic Officer for Albuquerque Public Schools. And I often tell people that this is my dream job, and it really is. And the reason is because I have a dream of redesigning what the school experience looks like.
And that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about today, is how we're rethinking school so that it is a place where we have wraparound services to support our students, where our students are seen and known and truly honored for their identity. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and this is the world I dream of for her. And I think Dr. Blakey often asked us, think about a child we care deeply about and what kind of school experience we would want. And I get to influence designing that school experience. So I'm very fortunate to be here and addressing you today. So these are the areas that we're really thinking about. If we do the work differently, this is what we would want to do. The first thing is teams of distributed expertise. So what we mean by that is that our students' needs are varied. They all have very different needs that we want to address and support. I'm not always the right support in any given moment. We need a host of people with expertise to really lean in and support our students. So that can be math and content specialists, for example. It can be our counselors. It can be our resources. How we build that team really thoughtfully in order to support our students. The second is one I'm really passionate about, and that's our deeper and personalized learning. School has been traditionally sort of, you sit in your rows, you get what you get, and that's school. And we know we can do better. And we know in the 21st century, as we send our students out into a very different world than I know even I grew up in, they need to have a deeper personalized experience that's going to truly prepare them for what's coming next. And then finally, college and career readiness, and whatever that looks like for our students. When they graduate high school, they are going to go do. Do what? Well, that's really up to them, but we want to have given them opportunities, exposure to varied experiences so that they have a good idea what path they want to go down, rather than sending them out the door with a diploma in hand, now go figure it out. That's really kind of not fair to them, right? Like, we want to make sure that they've had those opportunities to explore their world and learn more about it. So with that being said, this is sort of our, this is our vision of how we redesign our pre-K through 12 school experience for our students. And in the elementary, we know how critical the developmental, how critical that space is developmentally. And so making sure we're giving them strong foundational skills that are going to serve them well as they go forward. Of course, that's literacy, numeracy, but also starting our career awareness here. Kids watch adults and they watch us go out the door and go do the things adults do. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what adults do and start exploring some of that in a way that's appropriate for children. Our middle school, does anybody have a middle schooler in their life? Yeah, they're fun. That's my daughter's 12, so she's middle school. This is where I am. Tough stuff. And I used to work in a middle school, and I really loved it for a lot of reasons. But one thing that these students taught me was to always be kind and consistent. And that advice has really gotten me far with a lot of instances. Middle school is this very special time where kids are really searching for who they are and who they're going to be. They don't need a mini high school. They need a space where we can truly wrap around them as adults who love them and care about them and design experiences that are personalized, hands-on, experiential, maybe even out of the classroom, in order to begin to explore who they are and who they want to be. So our middle school redesign really is about creating those smaller cohorts, sort of a smaller learning community, as well as those deeper learning experiences that we dream of for kids so that, this is kind of sit and giddy, right? Like, if you're 12, this isn't a great presentation for you. So we want to really rethink how we do that for our middle schoolers and still keep our career exploration hat on because, again, they're looking out at the world, and the world is so accessible. Social media, YouTube, TV, like all the things that I didn't have. I'm probably aging myself. I didn't know like all the cool things that were out in the world, but kids have access to that now. So let's talk about what that is and how it can be a benefit to them and our society. Finally, high school, we're looking at how we redesign that experience too, so that it really is more of that deeper, personalized, hands-on, and driven towards the idea of exploring, getting experiences in what the world has to offer. We believe that happens in the classroom and out of the classroom. So it isn't just a let's talk about it, but let's experience it. So really think about how we redesign the structures of the school day to support that for our students. Our freshmen, our ninth graders, start their high school experience by being in a small learning community. We know that a 14-year-old, 15-year-old needs a lot of support as they transition from 8th to 9th grade. So how do we make that transition really safe for them, really comforting, like you're going to this big place, but it's not the big scary place that everybody makes it out to be. Rather, you're here with your peers and a group of people who really care about you. And we do some of that work through what we're thinking of as academies and pathways. And I'm not going to go too far into this, but it is sort of the idea of if I'm interested in, let's say, healthcare, or I'm 15, 16, and I think I'm interested, how can I explore that? And how can I learn about it? And then maybe find out that's not for me. There's needles involved, like I'm not doing that. And so I can go, well, maybe engineering. And so really start to explore, again, before our students get out into the wide, wide world, what it is that they might be interested in pursuing. So along the way, we have our profile of a graduate that Dr. Gonzalez talked about. We're constantly thinking about how we develop learning experiences that will lead students to developing those traits. Work-based learning, opportunities to get out, not just sit in the classroom. Love our classrooms, love our teachers, but even our teachers come to life when they're able to get out into the world and help our students in that way. And then also thinking always about how do we develop the skills, habits, and mindsets for success. If I can persevere, like you're persevering right now, right? Like we're talking to you and you're persevering through it. But that's a skill, right? Like you have to learn how to do that. Thinking about self-regulation, our students need to learn to do that. When you're in uncomfortable situations, like how do you handle that? In addition to self-efficacy, which we believe is probably most important, because that's their belief in themselves, that they can do anything. And that's really what we want to develop in all of our students. Speaking to the academies of Albuquerque and how we're envisioning providing this personalized, deeper learning for all of our students, these are areas that we are investing in. And these areas are directly aligned to the economic needs of Albuquerque and our state. So when we look at our economic forecasts, we know that these are areas that if we can prepare our students for success in, they will be able to go find the opportunities. One thing that's really important is that our students stay with us. We want to provide them a top-notch education, but we also want them to not take that education and go work somewhere else. We want to develop our economy here so that the opportunities are here for all of our students, because we know how powerful that is when our talent stays here in our own community. So the final thing I'm going to talk to you about, and then I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Jessica Cano, for the next portion, is our instructional shift. So at the heart of this is a change in the way that we teach, a change in the way that students learn. So thinking about how we bring multiple subjects together. How do math and social studies engage in content together? What does that look like when you put it in a career-focused lens? How do you begin to develop those real-world, relevant experiences where kids can still learn that, I was going to try to state it like in a math equation to you. I can't do it right. But they can still learn what Y means, right? Because that is still at the heart of what we're doing. Those are our standards. And that's what we commit to teaching students. But we believe we can do it in a different way so that it does connect to real world relevance. So this is my last slide, and this is that shift that we're talking about. And this is what my job pretty much every day, every minute is, and it's to think about how do we help resource this, train this, design this experience for our students. So engage in inquiry, problem solving, and sense making. So instead of telling, hand students a problem. Let them think about it. Learning begins with thinking. And so we have to allow them the space to be thinkers. So that's part of our first instructional shift tenet. The second one is applying that learning to real world career and community contexts. So not, something that's out of a workbook about something that their students aren't familiar with, but something actually that reflects our community in Albuquerque. Number 3 is really critical because we know how important language development is and how we also want to honor all students' languages. So that students are talking, writing, reflecting, and building ideas with each other every day, both in their home language and in English, so that they're having that multilingual experience, not just if they're multilingual themselves, but also if they're monolingual, they're hearing that and learning to value how important that is. Learn to manage their efforts, take some risks. It's kind of a scary world. You got to just kind of go for it sometimes. And then also revise their own thinking. Be able to take a step back and be like, I hadn't thought of it that way. Let me rethink this. Really critical skill in what I see as a very dynamic world that we live in with a lot of information flying at us all the time. And then finally, as a foundation, is always access to what we call, that's education speak for layer 1. That's what happens in the classroom every day. Every day across our state, across our country, kids are sitting in classrooms and they're getting what we call layer 1. And that's our very best first teach with high quality instructional materials that are also appropriate to that classroom. And so we build on that, and if students aren't able to access it, we don't change the curriculum. We don't go to a different grade level, but rather we help the student rise to the grade level where they are. So these are our commitments to you in terms of how we shift the daily experience of our students. I'm so privileged to be a part of this work, and I want to hand it off now to my colleague, Jessica Cano, the Executive Director of Language and Cultural Equity, to take us even a layer deeper into what this work looks like. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good morning, everyone. Like she said, my name is Jessica Cano. I'm the Executive Director of Language and Cultural Equity, and what that means is I help support 4 very specific departments. One of those being our Indian Education Department, and I will talk in length, not too long, about what that work looks like currently and what this shift means for us and what we're looking at going forward. Along with the Indian Education Department, I oversee our bilingual multicultural education programs, which, as you guys know, really overlaps with that work. Our English learner supports team, and then we have a team that specifically focuses on the support of newcomer and refugee students. So those are the 4 departments I oversee. Very varying needs, but very important needs. So that is the work that I do. I'll tell you a little bit about myself so you can see my experience, and then I will try to do justice to the work of our team and the work they're doing and the connections that we're already making in the path going forward. So I have been with APS for about 16 years now. I was first a Spanish teacher. Spanish is my first language. So I was an English learner growing up, and I came into the system. I learned English in kindergarten and throughout my academic career. Like I said, my first job is a language teacher. That's something I was always passionate about. I served the biggest bulk of my professional career has been as a bilingual coordinator. So I helped support and build up the program at Etrisco Heritage. They graduate over 100 bilingual soul students every year, and we also have a Navajo program there. And now it's been about a year I'm in this role, serving the work. So just an idea of the organizational history of me and what I do, and the lens that I bring to this work as I've been in addition to this team. So now I'll really talk about our Indian education staff, the work that we're doing, and some organizational shifts we're doing so that the work that Dr. Gonzalez and Chief Jets just talked about includes the voice of our staff and the needs of our students in particular. So this isn't an all-encompassing everything they do. Like I said, I'll try to do justice, but like Nicole said, we have a team that works very hard, and more importantly, they do very important, great work with our students every day. I'm going in the wrong direction. I'm like, what is going on? I guess I'm a little nervous. Sorry, guys. So I want to talk a little bit about, we talked about the elementary redesign, really focusing on literacy. We have a group of teachers who works very specifically at the elementary level. They're resource teachers that are housed at that particular elementary school. We've really tried to target schools with higher populations and Native American students. And what they do is they provide additional academic support that could look like small groups. And students aren't obligated to leave the classroom, but it's a relationship that's there to add some additional supports. In addition, they do some culturally responsive lessons. You'll see at these schools, there may be some days and events that are hosted by the students in conjunction with those teachers that are honoring Native identity. So that looks a little bit different, and these teachers work in response to the needs of those students. So that's something that has been in place and will continue to be in place, and something we're really working on to really make sure that our students are getting additional support if they need it. But just as importantly, that there is someone on that campus who sees who they are, they value their culture, and they give them a space where that can be part of the lesson, part of the activities, and that educator shares that and models that for the other adults on the campuses. So our students are being welcomed with everything that they are into all of the learning spaces. So we're focusing on the academic, the social emotional, and just as importantly, the cultural on those campuses. So in addition, at the elementary level, we're working to build up some immersion language programs. So as you guys know, we use our 520 licensed teachers who are licensed to teach the languages based on agreements we have with those communities, and really looking at how do we integrate language into the core instruction. So currently we have a program in Dene language and another in Zuni language, where we're currently building those up. So we have pre-K and kindergarten in Zuni, and we have kindergarten and first grade in Navajo. So next is really tying to that career focus outside of this classroom to the classroom connection and some of the programs that we have within our Indian Education Department. So we do have an experiential learning experience that our third grade students get to go in the form of a field trip to work with one of our Indian Ed staff. So we have a wildlife sanctuary that is attached to Los Padillas Elementary School. All third grade students get to participate, but those lessons are being taught from an Indigenous perspective because we have our staff member co-facilitating, co-planning with the team out there so that students see the hands-on, but they also see their culture reflected in the learning, and other students see our Indigenous students' culture reflected in the learning, and it's honored that way. Another program that's very similarly tied to that work is our Indigenous Knowledge Keepers program. This is a student-led community learning experiences. So one of our teachers trains these students, works with these students. They prepare the lessons a week before, then they actually go out into the community and host these events. So we had a Winter Stories and Games event just this Saturday at Rio Grande High School. Kids got to come in, interact with the teenagers that are hosting these activities, talking to them about the history of the activities, and engaging them in interactions. The students do get industry certifications, so there's a food preparation portion to that they get certified for. So they're actually learning about what the activities are, how to engage with young students, how to coordinate, how to facilitate, and they instantly go out into the community and facilitate these activities. So it's very rewarding to engage with those students and see this happening and see the engagement of our younger students. So it's not the adults leading the work, the adults are leading the teenagers to do the work. So that's been really rewarding. We also work with our Jobs for America's Graduates. It's a career exploration program. We have two teachers from our Indian Ed department who facilitate that work. We were able to send a couple of our students to Washington, D.C. through a national conference to this. But it's really about getting those students internships, job explorer, career preparation. So those are some of the programs that are directly tied to that shift that we're looking at, that career experience in the classroom that is being prioritized for our Native American students particularly. Really looking at organizationally, we're going through a lot of transitions, but really some of the things that we'll be able to leverage going forward, making sure that our staff is having input and helping us make the decisions that are best for our students in particular. So we did add an instructional manager position. We did share this with you guys in the fall. So prior to this school year, this academic year, we had one instructional manager. We felt a need to support our teachers a little bit more. So we have one particularly for elementary, and then we have one for secondary. So those teachers get some more individualized supports as well. So as we all know, it's very important to take care of the adults so they can take care of the children. So we saw that need. And we have an additional support staff as part of as part of the group, as part of the department. So we have updated our high school programming. So we have worked in a few different iterations. The principal and staff at Albuquerque High agreed to host us, and we now have Indian education dedicated classrooms on that campus. So we offer some language programming, we offer some Native American Studies programming, government classes, social studies classes, and through that, any student at APS at any other high school is able to participate. We have a busing system. So trying to make sure that all of our students have access to the programming that we have to offer. As you guys know, we're a very large district. We have, I think, about 6,400 students right now, and we can't get teachers on every single campus, but we want to make sure that we get the learning to the students where they are, no matter where they go to high school. So we're really streamlining that process, making sure that we're being proactive, letting families know. So a lot of families have been getting emails and announcements about the programs and the classes that are available to them. And that registration is actually happening now for the fall. Something new that we are building as a department and unique to a department within the structures that is APS is an instructional council. So instructional council is kind of what makes decisions at a school. With our department being so unique and having teachers at various places, we are choosing to use that model, and we're just building it to help us use the staff as a leverage to help us make those decisions. So they'll be the academic decision-making body that leads the work. So we'll be bringing them together every other month. We're working on that. Right now we're building the policies, the procedures, and starting to make some decisions and look at what that looks like. Through that, we build some leadership, and the teachers come to us letting us know, and they help us also ensure that there is a two-way communication, and the things that we value for our students are making it to their learning experiences. So that is new and unique to Indian education here within APS. And just some highlighting of the different structures that we have to ensure that our student experiences are based in what our students need. So we have, as a department, built in several structures that help us gain information, gain perspective, to help us make the best decisions for our students. So this is one opportunity. Those of you who were here in the fall, you'll have some opportunity to give some direct feedback, not just to the department, but really to our Board of Education, our superintendent and her cabinet, making sure that those needs go all the way up. So making sure that your voice, your input is part of that. So this is our formal consultation, but many of your educational staff meet with us, send us emails. We take that information very seriously, and we really appreciate the dialogue. So that's something that we hope to see grow more and more, but that is part of the consultation as well. So really looking at building continued relationships and making sure that those are two-way conversations as well. So our Indian Parent Committee, who's here with us, we recently did a retreat, getting more and more clarity on what that looks like, making sure that we're using their knowledge, their expertise as parents of our students to help us make the best decisions, help us guide the work of the district. We will be sending out our parent survey. We're gonna look at that in detail. So you guys will get those results through the tester, all of that stuff, but really starting to look at all the information that we're getting to help us make good decisions for our students. Kind of going back to the same thing is really looking at these systems as part of our leadership. So it's not one person or a certain group of people that are making the decisions, but really collecting all of the data to make sure collaboratively the work isn't happening by those of us who are presenting today. It's happening by the experts in the room, our teachers. So making sure that our message is true to what is happening, but also that we're listening to them, to their experiences, and to their expertise to help guide us. I think I kind of said all of that, but really looking at collecting all information, informing our leadership, making sure that they understand the work and the work is understood in both directions. I think Dr. Gonzalez spoke to the goals and guardrails, but our students are written into those goals and guardrails. So really looking at our Martinez-Yazzie students. So I think it's something that's unique here in New Mexico in our state, but making sure that it's there, it's valued, it's not, we're just saying it, it's not just today. The students are at the forefront of the decisions we make. We look at their outcomes, we give feedback, all of those things. So I guess just that, just really looking at making sure that your perspective and everybody's perspective is included in the decisions and actually guiding the work. But that's really all I have for you to kind of give you an idea of the work of our staff specifically and the shifts we're making, the data we're collecting, both anecdotal and number data, so qualitative and quantitative, and really shifting to hearing to what our staff has today, their experience, what our parents have to say, and what you guys have to give us this afternoon. So we look forward to hearing your feedback. And I will transition over to the next presentation, which is our budget. And I'll be introducing Dr. Melanie Blea. Thank you, Melanie.
Good morning. Thank you, Jessica. So it's everyone's favorite topic. It's money. I know, it's money. Okay. A couple things. Tribal leaders, you have in your packet an affirmation of tribal consultation that we're going to ask that you fill out and get back to us before you leave today. And this presentation is going to inform some of your responses on that sheet. The other thing I want to do is apologize ahead of time. These slides are not necessarily in your PowerPoint. Some of them are in your packet. We will get them to you. There have been updates as early as this morning, and so I wanted to make sure you all had the most recent information, with the caveat that everything we're telling you is as of this morning, March 3rd, and we're giving our best estimate as to our planning and how we're going to move forward. So right now we're going to do kind of two parts. The first one is talk about review the federal title funding, Titles 1 through 4, and then also look at specific funding for the Indian Education Department and where those funds go. So when we look at Title I, as a district, APS does not receive Title I-C funds. We receive Title I-A and we receive Title I-D. Title I-A is exactly what you see up here. It's for students who are economically disadvantaged, children from low-income families. Overwhelmingly, the majority of the APS allocation goes directly to qualifying schools and schools make the choice of how to spend that money with their instructional council and their leadership team. We also have just over $3 million that goes to McKinney-Vento. Those are for families who are unhoused to make sure that our students can get to school and have the same opportunities as their peers. And then we also have approximately $259,000 that goes to family activities. So that's Title I, Part A. None of that has really changed in terms of how it's allocated. That's pretty typical for what we've done in years past. Part D goes towards what we call delinquent and neglected sites. That is to our jail and also to some of the shelters in the city. So Part D goes to those specific areas, and then Part A goes to school sites for the most part. Title II, you heard from every speaker that's spoken from APS about professional development and how important it is for our teachers to have updated, culturally relevant professional development. So Title II funds primarily support that. Teacher and leader effectiveness, as well as developing, recruiting and retaining quality teachers. So we have resource teachers in the district that work K-12 with all content areas, so their salaries come from this funding. We also have approximately $600,000 that goes towards a variety of professional development opportunities, but it does include the Indian Education Department. And we also have a very robust principal residency program in partnership with the University of New Mexico. It's called the ALL program. It's been around for, I think, over a dozen years, if not longer. And we do work with principal residents, so ingrown from APS, current teachers that are going to be principals. So again, you're developing teacher and leader effectiveness through Title II funding. Title III, again, you've heard a lot about language acquisition. So Title III funds English language acquisition really through reading, writing, speaking, listening. The majority of those funds go towards professional development specifically for that area, and also in salaries for some of our language and cultural equity English coaches and our newcomer program salaries. So the primary focus of Title II is around language and cultural equity, language enrichment, and the newcomer program. This really has not changed either from last year. Newcomer programs and language programs remain a focus. It is one of the goals we're working on in terms of developing literacy throughout the district. And then Title IV is kind of a hodgepodge of things, but really Title IV funding supports well-rounded education, safe and healthy students, and effective technology. So a lot of these funds go to support our departments such as counseling, nursing, school climate, and then federal and state programs. We also do fund the International Baccalaureate program out of Title IV, and that is something that's very specific to the Indian Education Department. At APS, we only receive Part A, which I just described. We do not receive Part B. And as a district, we do not receive Title V. That's reserved for rural districts, and we definitely do not qualify for that. So to wrap up, and I know this is quick, but for title funding, so Titles 1, 2, 3, 4, in previous consultations and through two-way communication, as Jessica alluded to, some of these priorities have emerged from you all. And this is where we put a lot of our funding, either in title funding and or in Indian education funding. Definitely native language instruction, career-connected learning, which you've heard a lot about through the academies and through our resource teachers. Culturally relevant activities for our students, especially after-school clubs and summer programming has been a big highlight. Student engagement beginning in pre-K through graduation, and then providing just support materials. So you're gonna see some of the funding goes just to make sure our students have eyeglasses, that they have a cap and gown, that they're able to travel to, as Jessica alluded to as well, Washington, D.C. These are things that you all have highlighted as priorities, and so we have allocated funding towards them. All right, so now we're gonna talk about funding specific for, Indian Ed. Okay. So there's a couple of things. We receive funding throughout the year from various sources. And so we receive funding on calendar years, on fiscal years, which is October, and then on school years. So it's all kind of over the place. Some funds we have to spend within a certain time frame, and some funds carry over. So that really contributes to how we allocate our funding and where we put priorities. If we need to expend funds quickly, then we make sure we do that. If we have some time and we can carry them over, then we work to make sure that we still spend the funds on what we need, but we take that into consideration. So we have various funding sources. We're going to go through all of them, but we're going to start with state operational funding. So this is allocated to districts based on student enrollment. In the Indian Education Department, these funds support 5 different positions, and you can see them there. And so that's all it is. It's the positions to support our department. That's where our state operational funding is allocated. Federal Title VI funding really is designed to address the unique cultural language educational needs of our students. And so you can see that we have 10 full-time employees, and you can see what they are there. Really, all it is, again, is salaries and benefits for those employees. Jessica did discuss what they do and how they support the department and our students. So again, the title funding goes directly to support these positions. Johnson O'Malley funds. These are allocated to districts with eligible American Indian and Alaskan Native students. And there are different examples. This funding is a little bit more flexible than other funds, but really the Indian Parent Committee reviews and has approval over how we use these funds. We provided some examples on the right of what we use them for. Career academic college readiness counseling is one of those areas. Making sure that our students have school supplies and any items that they need to participate in school, and also just extracurricular activities. And college prep programs, again, making sure that our students are ready when they graduate with that post-secondary either certificate or they're college ready, whatever the case may be. Hopefully you've heard this as a theme throughout the presentation. So we make sure that all of that is allocated for. And here's another example, very, very in the weeds of how we've allocated funds. With a lot of these grants, if we allocate funding for something, and then later on, either through consultation with you all or as programmatic needs change or data changes, a lot of these grants do allow us to amend the application and move funds in different areas. So just because funds are allocated for a certain area now doesn't mean that we can't go and reallocate them if the need arises through the program level, and specifically with these funds if the Indian Parent Committee approves that. All right, we have a couple of state grant funding opportunities. One is allocation funds, and then one is the pre-K funds. So for the allocation funding, districts must qualify in one of these areas. APS qualifies in number 1. We serve more than 175 American Indian or Alaskan Native students. So we do qualify for state allocation funds. There are various program focus that we can select from. We selected 3, and so we'll talk about them. And again, it's based on two-way communication with you all, as well as our student data and the IPC. But the first program focus is really on college preparation programs. Again, I hope you're hearing a theme of the academies and making sure connecting to goal 3 with post-secondary readiness. But we really want to make sure that our students are college and career ready. So there are 5 positions that are funded specifically connected to program focus 1. One of them is the JAG program. The other one is, like I just mentioned, the International Baccalaureate program, the Navajo language. So that's the first area. We also have some funds for student travel. Really, that's more for college visits and site tours. So again, program 1, we aligned with college and career readiness. The second programmatic focus is Indian language restoration programs, including the state seal of bilingualism and biliteracy. So there's 3 positions that are funded through here. And again, you can see they support the Navajo and Zuni languages. And again, there are funds available for student travel, same type of thing for college visits, industry site tours as well, and then various cultural experiences. And our third program focus is promoting parent involvement. And so you can see the full-time employee or that position that we fund with this area is specific to a coordinator. So everything's aligned to the program, to the budget, to the goals, to the feedback that you all give us. And so when you put everything together, really the majority of this is salaries and benefits for the positions mentioned, and then again, some money for student travel. Okay, pre-K. We have a pre-K program. They're very cute. If you haven't seen them or gone over, you should go. This is given to us by the Early Childhood and Care Department, and it's specific for preschool programming. So we do have one class of preschoolers. They're learning the Zuni language, and so these funds pay for the teacher and the educational assistant in that program. Impact aid. All right. So impact aid, you can read the definition on the left. I'm giving you a breakdown of some of the expenses. A lot of them, some of it I will say is for food, and you're probably wondering why food. Very few grants or funds allow for us to have food. So lunch today, if our students go on a field trip, we want to make sure they have lunch. A lot of times if they go on a bus tour or they're going to we had a group of students that went to the state legislature as an example, we want to make sure that they have food. There's more money for student travel. Again, that's a lot of buses, in some cases out-of-state travel. And then general supplies and professional development. So our impact aid goes kind of to a variety of different areas that support our academic programming. And so if you look overall at the summary, there's many different funding sources. And so we don't just rely on one funding source. We blend and braid based on what we can and cannot spend, and based on input, again, that we receive from you all and data that we review. So I really want to make sure I highlight priorities moving forward from now and into next budget season. We want to make sure we're aligning the budget with the goals and that those goals have measurable outcomes. So it's called what I call return on learning. We want to make sure we're funding and we're putting our resources where they're going to get the most learning for our students. We are going to continue with our department budget training. A lot of departments, and this is no knock on Indian education, a lot of our teachers are not budget savvy because they don't really need to be. But it's important, especially in this day and age when our funding levels are not as stable as they may have been, that we train everyone who does spend these funds or who benefits from these funds on what they can and cannot do. Improved communication regarding budget and funding recommendations. That's for our department internally as well as externally through our IPC and through consultations. And then continue to blend and braid funding to make sure that our programmatic needs are met. Ms. Campos, am I turning it over to you?
So good morning. Actually, I don't think I've formally introduced myself to the group. So I'm Tanya Campos. I'm the Chief of Equity. So Ms. Cano mentioned that she oversees language and cultural equity. Language and cultural equity is also under the equity umbrella, as well as our Equal Opportunity Services Department. So again, good morning, welcome. So you've been sitting for a while. It's a lot of information, but this is the opportunity now for you all as tribal leaders to ask our panelists any questions that for the community here at large. But also remember, I mean, we will be here for questions as well, but this is information when you meet with our Board of Education this afternoon, as well as our superintendent and her cabinet, that you can absolutely have this as part of that consultation as well. So I'm going to, I'm going to just open up the floor if any of our tribal leaders have a question for any of our panelists. I know you guys aren't shy.
Thank you. I want to say hi to Katie Ann from Assistant Secretary. Good morning. She does a great job for us. Thank you. The homeless, do you have some of our Native children that are homeless, and what's being done, and is there a follow-up done to help these children? Because I know there's a lot of homeless throughout Albuquerque and within Espanola as well, and I want to know how is that addressed and how can we help?
Sure. I'm going to hand this over to Crystal Wilson. She's our director of McKinney-Vento to answer that specifically.
Good morning, Crystal Wilson, Director of McKinney-Vento and Foster Care for Albuquerque Public Schools. Thank you for your question. We are working with all of our students who are experiencing homelessness. We work with their families to connect them to the resources here in the community, but also in your communities. So we always ask families if they would like to be reconnected to their tribes, pueblos, or nations, and work with them to better understand their story. What I can share with you is that it takes time to develop relationships of trust in which families are comfortable sharing with us what resources they want to be connected with, and possibly even their why. We, during that time, are working on making sure our students are connected to their education. They have the right to attend what's called their school of origin. So it's the school that they attended when they first became homeless. So for many of our families, that takes a lot of work to navigate transportation with us and to see that we are truly investing in their child and their family in a way that matters and is relevant to them.
Thank you, because I think it's important, like for us in Santa Clara, we're within the municipality of Española, and it's important that our children, or that we reach out to the individual tribe with respectful tribe, that with family or friends from the individual tribe first, such as Ikwa, so that and we pray that the family from the respective community or nation would take responsibility or take some type of leadership role to help that child before he's, or family that's turned over to another tribe or to another community. And so with respect to those children that are in that situation, I would hope that APS would take that in consideration to reach out to the tribal government or to the respective nation first before providing that other assistance to a foster care program or foster parents. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are working with our student information system to add some permission so that we can be in communication with you all. Thank you.
So just to add to what Crystal just said, so this year for registration is part of the information that families authorize us to release. We've added that McKinney-Vento status. So for the 26-27 school year, especially for you education directors, when you get that list, there will now be a column that indicates McKinney-Vento status. If you see a Y on there, that'll be something that you guys will be getting quarterly. So currently you guys get attendance and grades. That'll be an additional factor. So we've added that to our parent information system so they are aware that that's going to be shared out going forward. So any release of information that information will be added for that. So that's for the upcoming school year.
Good morning again, everyone. And I have a few series of questions, so if you need me to repeat any of them, let me know. Again, my name is Andy Nez. I currently serve on the 25th Navajo Nation Council and appointed to the Health Education Human Service Committee. And I didn't share this earlier, but of the 110 communities on the Navajo Nation, I was elected to work alongside 4 of them, which are Fort Defiance, Sawmill, Crystal, and Red Lake. And the unique thing about the region I've been elected to serve is I work with 4 chapters, 3 different counties, 2 different states, and 1 mission. And today it's on education, so here we are. So the first thing I have is, what is APS's plan then on addressing the Yazi Martinez case? The 25th Navajo Nation Council opposed their plan that was produced, and that's a whole, we can have a whole summit on that, right? And I'm just curious as to what APS has in the event that this is enacted. I know it is in the courts, etc., but I think that's something that's very important, considering that the Navajo Nation has over 3,000 students who are attending APS, as well as we make up over 50% of your American Indian, Native American student population here. The next thing is I spearheaded opposing Executive Order 14242, which is basically dismantling the U.S. Department of Education, primarily for some of the reasons that you've shared when it comes to the funding that is received. As we all know, there are many of our students here generate millions for school districts, not only in our state of New Mexico, but across the country. And so what then is APS's plan or some contingency timeline to support and continue to advocate for our students who generate their funds for their activities, their services here within APS? My next question is, I was looking through some of the data, and I understand, unfortunately, a lot of our American Indian, Native American students, when it comes to any disciplinary action, it requires, or it not requires, but it includes substance and alcohol abuse. And we do our best in my region. It's, I'm not a clinician, I'm not an expert, but it's something that I'm passionate about helping our relatives who need that extra guidance. And when it comes to our students, that's where we also establish MOAs with some of our local school districts so that there is more support for them. I actually had a meeting about this yesterday where some schools, rather than assisting staff who have these concerns as well, or students, they're simply removing them. I am never a firm believer that you just remove the issue or give it to somebody else, because that really doesn't solve anything. And I'm a former classroom teacher. I used to teach kindergarten through 5th grade. So education is my background, and anytime it comes to students, I do my best to support them regardless of their background. And so my third question then is, what is APS? Are there any existing partnerships or MOAs that you have with a lot of our nonprofits? Not only those that are supported through the state, but there's a lot of great work that is happening on the ground. And oftentimes I always tell folks, even back home, nonprofits do a lot of work, more work than the government sometimes. And so that's my third question. My next question is regarding your vacant director's position, and what is the status of that, and when do we anticipate possibly getting a new staff member in there to oversee the Indian Ed? I asked this because it's been a year since APS has consulted one-on-one with the Navajo Nation, and I'm going to respectfully decline to sign the affirmation because I think that is important due to the significant number of students that we have attending APS. The next thing I want to mention is the bilingual seal. I do appreciate the work of Ms. Johnson, who was here earlier. I don't know if she's still sitting in here. There she is. So the Navajo Nation has a bilingual seal proficiency assessment. And this year, 44 students, which used to be about 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 single digits for many years, is now 44 this coming year. And so we had several students that came out of APS who received that. But I also understand APS does their own, and we've tried and we've shared with New Mexico PED that the Navajo Nation is your language nest, not a program that is designed or developed elsewhere to initiate that language. We appreciate the language being offered, but I'm just talking more about when the student receives that recognition, then those additional next steps. So I think if that needs to be clarified, I'm happy to discuss that more on behalf of the Navajo Nation and with APS. Thank you.
So really quick, I can answer the one on the senior director position. So that was filled. Last fall. Unfortunately, the senior director had to leave for health reasons. So that position actually got posted this morning. So that is posted. We expedited that posting, and we hope to get another senior director soon on that. We did do consultation with the Navajo Nation last fall, one-on-one. So we have done that since the fall with the Navajo Nation, with the Department of Education. So I'm for that one, but we might have to kind of re-summarize a little bit. The first one you were asking, sir, was basically, what are we doing for Yazi Martinez? Dr. Gonzalez, do you want to take that one?
Microphone's falling from the sky. Thank you for your questions. I want to try and answer two of them. One is, I want to start answering what is APS doing for the Yazi Martinez lawsuit. The second one is substance abuse and what APS is doing to really support students, all students in regards to substance abuse. So I kind of have two little beginnings of answers, if nothing else. So recognizing that the Yazi Martinez decision is something that APS takes very seriously. It is a lawsuit, as we know, that is ongoing between the plaintiffs and the state of New Mexico. With that said, APS, I believe, have several examples of where we have worked intentionally to really bring the spirit of that ongoing litigation to life as a school district. And I want to point to what we talked about at the very beginning of our time today, which was the goals that APS has. So the goals that APS has, which is the work, what we do every single day in relationship to our programming, the way we budget, the way we support schools. 4 goals: early literacy, math proficiency, college and career readiness, and skills, habits, and mindsets for a successful life are all monitored through the eyes of Yazi Martinez. So that was not something that was mandated. That was something that, through the wisdom of the board and to the credit of the board, they put on the administration, that we monitor these goals through the eyes of Yazi Martinez, which includes monitoring and monthly accountability from the board to the administration, eyes through Yazi Martinez. So whether it's early literacy, how are our Native American student population faring when it comes to that piece? Math proficiency and so on. So that is something that I want to point to, because I think it speaks to how the accountability from the board to the district is magnified in a very real way through the eyes of Yazi Martinez. And that's really a big example that I want to put forth, because that is the work that we are doing every day and our schools are doing every day to be monitored too and accountable as well to that piece. I could talk about this for a lot longer, but I'm going to temper myself because of time. The second thing that I'd like to share, and your questions are absolutely well taken in relationship to substance abuse. I'm going to reference a conversation we had yesterday in relationship to this very real issue. Ongoing challenges, taking high school, for example, as students engaged in substance abuse. And what we've noticed through conversations with our schools is our bathrooms are an area that are very much of concern, obviously for 2 reasons. One, we want our students to be able to go to the restroom when they need to. However, some have expressed to us that they're holding back from going because that is where some use of substances is taking place, okay? Vaping, for example. And this is of a concern. This is of real concern. And your question directly asked, what partnerships, what MOUs are we engaged in to really tackle this issue? And again, through the leadership of the board, just, I believe it was last fall, the opioid settlement agreement, which is a triad agreement between the county of Bernalillo, the city of Albuquerque, and APS, was able to leverage funding to really take on this real concern through a multi-million-dollar grant. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I believe it's in the neighborhood of a $5 million grant that we have, which will include vape detectors in our restrooms, so at our high schools. So what this does is it provides us an opportunity to theoretically have a safe environment with wraparound services, because you just can't put this deterrent in place without wraparound services. So what this grant is also doing us is enabling us to have at every single one of our high schools a crossroads counselor, a full-time drug abuse counselor that is able to work from a proactive and a reactive point of view to really support our students to make good decisions, to live clean and healthy lives, and not engage in negative behavior that involves substance abuse. So those are just 2, I would say short, but they weren't that short, answers to your questions and happy to have a further dialogue along those lines if needed.
I'm not sure, were there other questions we haven't answered yet, sir?
Yes, the other one was, and thank you all for your responses. The other was the Executive Order 14242 that the U.S. President signed last year, which ultimately dismantles. I asked that because you have over, nearly 30 Indian Ed programs, primarily programs, right, that fund our students, from Title VI that you showed, from Johnson O'Malley, which we've seen significant cuts, over 90%. And so when you give that over to the Department of Labor or the Department of Interior, who are not designed or statutorily authorized to provide that funding, that's a shortchange to all Native American Indian students. And these are students that generate those fundings for schools. This can go out to the McKinney-Vento that was mentioned earlier, to our students with special needs, right? We have all these different things, and so that's why I'm asking what then is the plan. We had a school district on the nation in Arizona who had to use and utilize their funding to offset what the superintendent in Arizona was withholding because of the whole DEI initiative. When he withheld these affirmations, that was student funding. That was illegal. But those are the things that we deal with because we deal with 3 different states. We're lucky that PED and our state of New Mexico is not, to follow laws right to the best that they can and not really, consent to this administration, which is good because it benefits a lot of our students. So that's why I'm asking about that plan, and I appreciate your response. I do want to highlight that I also spearheaded a legislation that was signed into law by our president, and that was allocating funds to Diné College as well as Navajo Technical University, renewing their Diné Higher Education grant. So if they could be partners in any of the work that is happening here in APS, I would highly encourage that because that's what we set aside funding for them for the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I can speak to the dismantling of the Department of Ed. We're doing a couple of things, and you noted one of them, but the first one is we have a very, very strong working relationship with the PED at the State Department in all the bureaus, Titles 1 through 4, Indian Ed. We have a very strong relationship with them, and so the communication is very tight. So when they know something, they're very quick to turn around, and we are very strong in our communication with them on what we expect and how much we rely on these funds. The other thing that we've started to do as a district internally for about a year now is scenario planning. So the budget office, the CFO, we do a lot of scenario planning where we say, if X happens, then what is our plan to make sure that our students continue to get what they need. This year, there's a little bit less money than there was last year. Our schools, we did the very best we could, so our schools remain whole and our students continue to get what they need, and that's due in part to scenario planning internally. And the third thing that we do is we work very closely as a district with our state congressional delegation to make sure that on the national and the federal level, they are very well aware of how much we receive, what we do with these funds, and how much we rely on these funds so that they can carry that message to Washington.
So I have 2 questions. One's around looking if the district would consider looking at literacy as a priority, numeracy as a priority over literacy. So there is a large body of research that shows that early numeracy is a statistically significant, stronger indicator of long-term academic success than literacy. There's a relationship that early numeracy achievement actually supports future literacy development, but the reverse relationship does not exist. So children who are strong in literacy do not necessarily achieve well in numeracy. The focus on literacy is particularly detrimental to Indigenous communities that have oral-only languages. And when the message is sent to parents that your level of literacy by 3rd grade is so critical to your future children's academic success, families are concerned, they want what's best for their children, and so then they push literacy. And when an Indigenous language doesn't have a written language, it supplants that language. So part of what a myth that perpetuates the importance of literacy is that written languages are more rigorous than oral languages. And that just that is not true in any way, shape, or form. An oral language that requires that everything is memorized, that you can't refer to a text, you can't refer to something written to remember what you're told, that level of intellectual ability is evidence that oral languages are more rigorous and more in-depth than written languages. So I just invite the district to look at early numeracy as a focus versus literacy. And literacy also was central to the Yazzie Martinez plan as an indicator of progress. And if you're looking at literacy only, you're really missing the boat on something that could support all our students, but specifically students who have languages that are oral only. Because you can do all the instruction for numeracy in the language because you don't need to have it written. Then my other question is, what is the district looking at in terms of mental health? There is a huge wave of children who spent the first 3 years of their lives in isolation. And when we were looking at our early childhood classrooms, there is an explosion of dysregulated children, children with challenging behaviors. I have seen, this is across the country. This is not just here, where veteran early childhood educators are like, my classroom is on fire. I don't know how to handle this. And so I'm asking, what is the school district doing in terms of addressing this need?
Thank you so much for elevating both of those issues. They're very important. And I'm really grateful for the emphasis on math. And I'm going to try to go way back here, get a backwards view. And this is on me. I never know how much detail to give that's going to be helpful. But I do want to, in our elementary redesign plan, you see something, it's not actually listed out. It probably should be, but it's our APS commitment. And this is how we're thinking about, in particular, elementary school. So our curriculum and instruction team have identified basically priority standards, if you will. So skills that have real durability in terms of setting students up for success. And those are in literacy and math. And so we know, even though goal 1 specifically is early literacy, that we have a math responsibility. Now, one thing I had not thought of, and I'm very grateful, and I think this is the value of our conversations, is how oral language works in that system. And so I'm really appreciative, and Jessica, I think that's something for you and I to sit down and think about, because that, I don't know that and maybe you have comments, maybe we are specifically addressing it, but I think it's critical to consider, because what we don't want to do is displace one thing for another. Everything is valuable, and we want our students to have those culturally important experiences that really honor their identity. Is there anything you would add? You don't have to.
I think that as a district or as our team and our supports, you'll see, like also in the instructional shifts, the first verb is talk. We want our students doing the talking, and that's really something that we want. Yes, we want them to write, but it's significant that the first thing that is listed is talk. Really talking to our teachers is, what is that experience? How are they engaging? Particularly in multilingual classrooms, it's important that students have language models in all of the languages and not just from the teacher. So all of us know as our students are developing their language, their heritage languages, we want them to interact with each other and build language through using it, and not really the experience not being learning about language, but learning through language and them actually doing the talking. But that is a shift in how we ask teachers to interact and engage and monitor, because I think as a system, we do think of how do I measure that? But we also know that students will be more engaged. So that's something that as we work with teachers, as we share the standards, ORC is something that is being elevated. And hopefully something as we do walk through stuff, we see more and more of in our classrooms. But that is something that Dr. J, I see her putting in those things and little conversations we have, my team back here, really looking at what does learning look like in the classroom, and ORC being a big part of that and making connections outside of the classroom. I think all of us, I've listened to several books not this year, but over the last 12 months, and I don't think I've read a single one on paper, but really looking at also, even in the English language, how what we do is evolving and bringing those connections to the classroom, investing in opportunities for students to podcast, to share their language, and what does that look like for our Indigenous students when it's allowed and how it's encouraged, and working with you all for that guidance, but really giving students more opportunity to use language and express language beyond what is written.
Thank you, Jessica. I did want to quickly address the mental health question that was asked too. And I agree, and any teacher will tell you students and their behaviors are different. And I'm not going to say they're good, I'm not going to say they're bad, but they're definitely different than, I dare to say, a pre-COVID era, right? We did lose some opportunities to help students develop self-regulation. There was a lot of isolation, not good for social development for students. And in fact, I had an opportunity to meet with a group of students at Valley High School last week, and they did a presentation on some things they would like to see different about teaching and learning in our district. And they acknowledged we are the COVID generation. Like, we're telling you this is what we need. And a lot of what they need is adults to think really differently about how they work with students. So again, when we talk about teams of distributed expertise, it's kind of a respectfully blah, blah way of saying, looking really carefully at what it is these students need and developing that expertise to wrap around those students. The days of the one teacher, 25 students, classroom management are pretty much over, right? The teacher needs help. They need more adults in the classroom with the children in order to support them. That's step one. And then thinking about integrated support systems, because we do need to work with our students about if they're having specific mental health episodes that we can help them with. If there's just something that is relevant to their life, who is the adult who is going to come in and do that? And that is kind of a different approach, and it's something that has to be built. And we're building it right now, but we have to continually elevate mental health in our schools. We are responsible for that, and it does impact the daily experience of not only our students, but our teachers as well. Thank you for that question.
Good morning again. This is Ted Garcia, a Lieutenant Governor from San Felipe Pueblo. And I appreciate the discussion and the presentation so far. I have a series of points that I want to make, but I'll reserve those for our conversation later this afternoon. One thing in particular that I want to broach this morning is sort of a very broad, high-level curiosity, maybe just on my part as a fairly new tribal leader at San Felipe. Your goals that you make reference to: early literacy, math proficiency, post-secondary readiness, skills, habits, and mindsets. The area that I'm curious about is how post-secondary readiness is measured. Your plans, your goals, your approaches, I'm guessing, have a limited reach, which is within the secondary school system that you are responsible for. So when students graduate and enter a structured curriculum at a post-secondary institution, generally what happens is they go through a series of placement tests. In my mind, as we speak right now, in the course of the last maybe 10 years, there's a handful of students that have graduated from various secondary educational institutions, tribal students, who have been, shall I say, led to believe that they are at this particular level and led to believe that they are ready to take on the post-secondary challenges. They have been awarded prestigious scholarships that would pay for, at minimum, a bachelor's degree, in some cases beyond. Well, in these examples that's in my mind right now, those individuals, 5 or so, in the first semester didn't go back for the second. So my question is, how do you measure post-secondary readiness when your reach is only limited?
Thank you for that question, Lieutenant Governor. I agree. Often our students, we hand them the diploma, and then it's hard for us to track what happens after that. And that's sort of a different conversation that we want to have, with our post-secondary institutions and our community. That being said, what's within our control as a district are, if you will, some guaranteed experiences that we measure relative to what we believe will support post-secondary success. So one of those measures is students' access to achieving a bilingual or multilingual seal. That is a really critical component, we believe, of having access to high quality education, but then also being prepared for what happens after high school. The second thing we look at is through participation in career pathway type courses. So in fact, our diploma requires that our students participate in coursework that includes at least 2 sequenced classes. And so what we're hoping to do, and really in relation to our especially academies of Albuquerque, is to provide those real world relevant experiences that, again, we believe are going to help students be prepared for what comes next. We can measure that. We can't necessarily measure what actually happens after the fact, but by providing these experiences and ensuring that every student is having that opportunity, we believe we can make a difference. The third sort of a thing that we measure is really advanced coursework, so advanced placement, participation in international baccalaureate. I feel like I'm forgetting something. CTE, thank you. And so in our career technical education courses. So again, opportunities that for our students are replicating a lot of what post-secondary life looks like so that they're developing those skills. So we don't measure on the outside, but we are measuring during the experience that we can influence in order to make sure students are getting those opportunities.
Thank you, folks, for the presentation and the information thus far. Just to follow up to the Lieutenant Governor's question or thoughts. Earlier, you mentioned you were, when you talk about academies, the academies of Albuquerque, you're wanting to develop individuals that are ready for the workforce or to even go on to college. And it was mentioned when developing a student to stay and work here, because that was one of the thoughts that came out when you were making the presentation, is to develop the workforce further here for our students to not leave the state and to stay here. So what is the state doing, or what is not only APS but all the other school districts doing to work with APS or to work with the state? So that way we know what the state is bringing in or how they're enticing opportunities for corporations to come make New Mexico their base. So what are we building our workforce towards if we don't have anything like that here? I mean, that goes back to pretty much everybody's question, is we're developing students to be successful. And one of the goals, and we've heard it throughout many years, we want our students to stay, and you're touching in on it today, to develop those students, but we have nothing here in the state of New Mexico for them to stay and work within. I mean, that's the challenge, right? I mean, in trying to figure that out. And the other is understanding kids today. I like the numeracy, and I recently became a grandfather. So she's going to be 2 in April. I count to her in our language in Laguna. Her grandmother my son's mother is Navajo, so she counts to her in Navajo. And where they're going to school, preschool, it's predominantly Hispanic. So she's learning that. So the funny thing is, for me, when I heard the story, the first thing I thought of was numeracy, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when her parents are wanting to put her in timeout at an early age, again, teaching discipline, they count to 5. 1, and what does she do? She goes 2, 3, 4, 5. She counts. So the repetitiveness is there, and we're talking about, at least one of the requests from the tribes is to institute language within our classrooms, within your classrooms. And you're having a challenge. You have Navajo, you have Zuni. You've asked, and I know you've spoken with Laguna. The challenge is, for me, growing up, immersion, full immersion, consistently being taught in that classroom every day. And that's your challenge now, is trying to find those educators to sit in that classroom to make sure that our request is being heard. So again, when we're developing this stuff, how do we reach out to make sure, and I know you guys are, to the different tribes to help us with the requests that we have in the classroom? Because when I look at this as well, when I heard the presentation, the Academies of Albuquerque, what I heard was, we're here to have consultation, you're here to hear us with our requests, but you're forcing a system on me. At the same time, in the following slides, you talk about APS Indian Education Department instructional shift systems. So within the Academy of Albuquerque, you're trying to insert APS or Indian education stuff is what you're doing now, right? Is my understanding. So again, in trying to understand what our requests are and how we move forward, it's probably going to be I hope is a really good discussion this afternoon. But just sitting here listening and how we develop the students, and we want them to stay because we want business in New Mexico, but the state also has to step up and figure out how we keep those students here. That's the other part that's missing. At least maybe the economic department should have been here to listen in, to say, all right, cool, well, here's some thoughts and ideas we have in the future. APS, other school districts, can you start to now develop these students to work in this industry? The crazy thing is, we want literacy, but we speak into our phones and have AI dictate for us stuff, right? So we're doing it to ourselves as adults even today. Even though we're stressing read, we're the ones using AI and saying, hey, dictate this for me. I don't want to type it out. So how do we balance that? How do we figure that out? So just a couple thoughts running through my head. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those thoughts. And I have a lot of thoughts now too. First of all, I just want to really acknowledge the importance of the insight of, that the academies is maybe a structure that we're trying to fit people into. It's not. It's an opportunity for students to learn through the lens of the real world. We do need your help in creating that. I think about myself a lot, but I reflect, I guess that's the word. I've been in education my whole life. I was a pretty good student. I graduated from high school. I went to college, and then I became a teacher. So I flipped sides of the desk. That's what I did. I don't actually know a lot about what happens in the real world, right? That's why we need these community partnerships. We need this conversation because the experiences we want to design, I think sometimes we as educators have a very limited scope, and I'll just speak really for myself there, but without this sort of consultation and dialogue, it's hard for us to do something that's truly culturally relevant and meaningful for students. And so I value your input. I value the push and the questions. I was thinking of something else. So that's kind of part of it, but keeping the students here in New Mexico, we do say that a lot. We definitely do. Like, I dream of New Mexico being this place of, like, truly not just enchantment, but, like, oh my God, New Mexico is the place, but we're not going to let anybody else in, right? Because this is our place, and we're going to teach our students, and they're going to rise up. Part of that, and part of the public service academy or theme, if you will, does include things like teaching, going into public education. And you're right. If we're going to provide these experiences, we need our Native youth to stay and become the teachers who can provide immersion opportunities. Like, we sometimes struggle to find people who can offer that to us. So how do we really intentionally develop what we want so that down the road in the future, we have it? These areas were developed working with AREA. I don't remember what AREA stands for. It's an economic, so nobody knows. It's basically they look at the economics of the state to determine where are we going. Because what we don't want to do is provide students opportunities and invest in things that might go away. Like, to your point about AI, and I don't know if this is true or not. It's just something people keep saying to me, so I'm going to use it. Coding, like coding computers and things used to be like the thing, and that's how you're going to like make your millions. Well, now AI does all that. So is that really what we should be investing in? We have to be like 10 steps in front of what our high school student experiences are so that we're preparing them adequately for what's coming. So I can't necessarily speak to what the state itself is doing, but I do want to ensure you that as a district, we are working with the state, we are working with entities, we are here to listen to what needs to happen and trying to bring all of those people into the room to have these conversations. Oh, yes, thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. The final thing we didn't really touch on in the presentation is how we are working with every student to give them immediate exposure and their families as well to careers that are here in New Mexico. So we have worked with the state through their Career Connected Readiness Bureau and some other bureaus that are at the state level to use a product called Level All. And so this is an online platform, but it's been specifically tailored to the New Mexico workforce. And so when students are accessing, let's say, a video, or like my daughter she still kind of wants to be a firefighter, which is great, but she needs to learn about what that really means, because it's not just what she's seeing on TV. So there are videos, there are pathways, there's resources for her to look at. What does it really mean to go into firefighting? And what do I have to learn? What do I have to study? What does it mean if I'm staying in Albuquerque and New Mexico? The final thing that we do in that platform is we help students develop what we call a next step plan. This is a legislated plan that every student has to do, which is fine, but it helps them think through the steps of what they're going to do next. So they start that plan in the spring of their 8th grade year, and we work with them till the end of their senior year to make sure they're staying on track for their goals and their dreams. So those are some ways we are partnering with the state, but I know that there are ways we could have a more robust partnership with all of the entities that we want to be involved.
And then just to piggyback on what Chief Jett is saying, I think part of the hidden benefit of these themed units is that students are getting a learning experience that's connected to that theme, but they're getting their core content. And we're hoping that as their learning is connected, they're more engaged. And the goal is that they stay on these pathways so they have transferable skills. So it's really that transferable. I think for those of us who went to college, I didn't go to college to be a teacher, but here I am, right? So I think we're really looking at how do these students elevate the rigor of what they're doing and the knowledge and make sure they leave with transferable skills. So if they choose to go to college, we hope that this profile of the graduate prepares them for that. If they choose to go to the workforce, these transferable skills make them successful in those spaces. So these are kind of the guaranteed experience for all of our students. And what we hope to elevate is that our Indian education doesn't supplant this, it adds to it. So when we add language opportunities, we ensure that they're not having to go to a Spanish class or a French class on their campus and get their heritage language elsewhere. It's really embedded into their learning experience. If they want to take a government class, for example, we have a Navajo government class or an Indigenous government class, they can do that in lieu of a traditional American government class. So really looking at opportunities to embed so our students get, in addition to some customized, but are still have access to everything, and systemically always embedding their experiences so that their identity and their culture is reflected in their learning experiences. But the goal is to have transferable skills so that students can choose what happens after high school. Governor.
Governor Ron Santa Clara. So on the language deal, for us in Santa Clara, we have our community school. And at 7th grade, our children go to 9, 10 public schools throughout New Mexico. Albuquerque, Santa Fe Indian School, McCurdy, Española, Mesa Vista. So we integrate our language in our, when we took over our school, we integrated our language from the BIA because we weren't allowed to do our traditional language at that time. So we emerged to the community school. There our language is taught, math, science, history, both English and in Tewa. But in 7th grade, they leave because most of us are losing our language, and the language, as the lady mentioned, is oral. And so a lot of our children, or a lot of our parents are losing the language, so now the children are trying to teach their parents. And it's difficult for us in Santa Clara, so we've invested millions of dollars to revitalize our Tewa language program, because obviously we can't send our teachers to here. We're having a difficult time sending them to Santa Fe, to McCurdy, because we just don't have that capability and capacity right now. So us as a sovereign nation, we're revitalizing our Tewa language to make it for all of us. I have nephews across the country and family. So we're integrating our language through Zoom because that's the only way we can communicate. It might be wrong in one sense, but it might be a way to save our language. And with the technology of Zoom during COVID and our phones, we have to go back to our traditional leaders and traditional ways and explain to them that this is our only way we're going to save our language right now. And we're not getting the assistance from Albuquerque or other schools, and it's not your fault. It's our fault as a community. And so we're taking that responsibility and working with our tribal council and our leaders on ways to save our language. That's our most, without our language, we can't say our prayers, we can't do our dances, we can't, our spirits don't understand English. Our spirits understand our Tewa way. And we're in Santa Clara, we're an extinct creature now. There's only less than 2,000 of us in this world. And we got to hold on to that. And as leadership and as an educator, that's our responsibility. And we need that kind of support from APS and from the other public schools to help us revitalize our program, because it can't be done here. We've tried that, and it's not working. And so I just wanted to throw that out there, because that's our solution. I can't bring problems to the table all day, but our solution is that this is how we're going to save our language in Santa Clara, is investing our own money to keep our language alive so that our children can prosper one day. Your job is to get them to get their diploma. That's what I think. So I just wanted to throw that out there. A couple other questions is the chronic absent. It's unfortunate that public schools ding our children for chronic absent for traditional doings, traditional activities. Unfortunately, our feast days are in August, right when school starts. We can send a letter saying that our student's going to be out for 5 or 6 days, and it's automatic. They don't care. They just see absent and they ding us. They ding our children, and they don't let them give that opportunity to catch up. So all I ask out of respect is when we submit those letters and our children from Santa Clara or other villages are participating in those events, allow them to have that time. Don't punish them. Don't take away their activities at sports or band or whatever because they're learning our language and our traditions. And that's just not here. It's at all the public schools. They ding our children and they put a red flag on the parents. And I'm a victim of that because my kids went to public school, and we get red flags as good parents, and that just wasn't right. And then we have to go and explain. And out of respect, that's one of my questions. And then the second question I have is the director of the APS Indian, are they required a principal license or not at that level? And that's my question, but thank you for your time.
Talk a little bit about the language. I don't know if it was a question, but I will say that we're willing to work with you. We're willing to figure out how do we get your students into those experiences. We're also willing to work with, can we issue credit based on that interaction? Because what we want is to encourage students to learn in their language. And if we can work with you and sit down with your team or whoever it is to let us know what that looks like for your students, we're willing to put that agreement together to make sure. And I love what you said. Some of our programs are open to everybody. So we do have, I won't say a lot, but we do have parents who attend virtual classes with their students. So it is a family experience, and we value that. So we're willing to work with Santa Clara and see what does that look like for the students that come to APS.
And it's a new thing for us, right? And so with our educator and our Tewa language program, it's taking us time. And the collaboration and consultation between when at 2:30, is that a good time? At 12 o'clock, I don't know, right? And that's something that we have to work out with the students here, because we don't have a whole lot of students here.
Yeah.
We have some in high school, we have some in elementary school. You know, they're out throughout the city, and same in Santa Fe. And so that's where the collaboration and the consultation and the partnerships is going to take place, is how do we accommodate our kids, and what time and what day that doesn't interfere with your regular class studies. And then if it's done in the evening, then do they get to come in late? I don't know. Thank you.
I just want to add, I know sometimes it can be a sensitive subject, and we'll have community ask APS, well, you need to teach more native languages. And we're really conscious, those are not our languages to teach. Those are your languages. We have no right to teach those languages. It is only with the right and respect if that particular tribe, nation, or pueblo designates for us to teach those languages. So it is not just APS saying, oh, now all of a sudden we're going to start teaching native languages. That is not our role at all to do that. And then again, you're right, it's very important, but there's a lot of steps, as you mentioned, Governor Naranjo. I always think of my father, and he has grown, but he's an older gentleman, and the idea of teaching his language in a public school system was not something that was done. But we have to look, and you said we're losing our languages. So how do we balance making sure that we're doing it right? We're still keeping it within that tribe and honoring that, but looking at 21st century ways and understanding how our students learn now too, to balance that. But that is our commitment, and that typically is one-on-one with each Pueblo, tribe, or nation, is sitting down, looking at what that tribe, nation, or Pueblo is interested in doing, the parameters, where you're at in the time period, because this is a years-long cycle to start that conversation to then actually have it potentially in the school. So that is our commitment. If any tribe, nation, or Pueblo is interested, that we would sit down and kind of put that parameters together on that. And then I have him, and then back, and then. With time purposes too, and I know we haven't even gotten to our IPP draft, so we're going to do our last three, and then we'll go. We do need to talk about the IPP draft on there.
Thank you very much. Again, this is Davey Maley, First Lieutenant Governor of Acoma. Thank you, Governor, for your remarks on absentee and for cultural activities, because we too at the Pueblo of Acoma, and also the other Pueblos and nations and tribes, do face that challenge of getting our kids excused for being absent due to cultural activities. And as Governor had mentioned his comment, I looked at your profile of an APS graduate. So that individual, that young person who is engaging in his or her community by participating in their cultural activities, he's engaged as a citizen. He or she is engaged as a citizen. Also driven by the growth mindset of his or her tribe. Socially and culturally being aware of receiving those teachings, receiving those prayers, receiving that certain way of life, to bring that all back together, and then somehow, some way, engage those teachings into this new common world of the APS system and learning in the school system. So that's how, as Native people, that's how we engage. Some of us who are from different tribes are living proof of living in one life, two life, three worlds, four worlds. In one particular case, you have a Native person who's living in two worlds, sometimes even three. One, the English world. Two, the native world. And then if that person is a spiritual person, they also have a spiritual commitment in that section as well. So I say this because I will hopefully maybe get my message across that the APS systems and other school districts here in our state would understand that it's important for us as parents to have our children engage in those cultural activities. It's what makes a person it's what makes a good person in this new day and age to become a good citizen with all these models that you have here. And I really commend the APS for having this APS graduate model. I pinged on that and I said, man, in Acoma, of course, we belong to the Cibola District County. If there's anybody from the Cibola District school system, please look at this model, because I was like, man, this is something for us to follow, and I was really happy to see that, but thank you for that. Going on to language advocacy, as Governor had mentioned, here in the tribes, we do have advocacy groups as well. At Acoma, we have the Language Advocacy Advisory Group and Committee. So of course, if other tribes and if the school system would like to engage with the tribes and the education departments, you're more than welcome to, come out and see what we're doing. I'm sure that other tribes are also doing the same thing as trying to revitalize the language, and that's really important for us. And I could proudly say that for Acoma, we have level 1 and level 2 language teachers currently on. We actually have 3 level 2 language KARIS teachers currently right now who are helping the district of Cibola County. So just a little, I guess, notes for other tribes and pueblos to kind of look at it in that way of building your own in your own community to serve your community outside of your reservation boundaries. Of course, success of our students is number one. It's a number one priority for all tribes, pueblos, and nations. But with that success, we also have to include disciplinary actions for our children. What I mean by that is that we, as tribal leaders and as parents and as community members who are truly involved in the future of our children, we want to also engage in those certain disciplinary actions where tribal leadership is notified of our native students who are in trouble. I was looking at your graph, and I thank you for all the great information that you have on here, letting us know how our native students are doing as a whole in the APS system. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So out of 22,753 students, 1,015 Native American students got in trouble in the year 24-25. What was done and on the APS side to help these children get back on track? And I do offer for the Pueblo of Acoma that we get engaged personally through not only our tribal leadership, but our tribal sheriffs or fiscales, who would then, if we receive a call, let's say from APS, we have one student who's keeps getting suspended. Well, guess what? We're going to send the tribal sheriff over to that parent's house, and we're going to have to find him, of course, because they probably live here in Albuquerque. But it's probably a lot easier because they have an address that they could Google, right? So that's just an example how Acoma does it. And I don't know if other tribes do the same thing, but what that does is it makes it a personal issue between the tribe and the student and the family to maybe get them back on track. Because sometimes, especially in this day and age, kids are, as one of the gentlemen from Laguna had mentioned, we're all, occupied with this. We're all occupied with social media and what my friends are going to say about me the next day for getting in trouble, right? We don't praise on the goodness right away. We praise on the badness first, right? And who got in trouble. But I think if we can stop that culture today and discipline our kids and go back to how we used to give advice to our children, maybe it'll change the way how our children will focus these days. One thing that we've done for Acoma, of course, we have the old village on the top, is this year, the tribal leadership on top has said, no smartphones, no smart devices, no cell phones, no smartwatches. So if you come up to Acoma, leave your smart devices at home because it will be taken away by our tribal sheriffs. This is a cue for the tribal sheriffs for them. And we won't give it back. That's just number one rule. Yep. And so what that does is that helps our children, our community members really engage on the reason why we are there, on the reasons why we should hear our language, our cultures, and our songs. So just wanted to share with you of that. Also, the IPP for APS, has that been signed and approved? No, we need to do that now. Oh, okay. All right. I have a few remarks, but I'll pass that, or we'll wait for that discussion there. But I do like the 14-pager. And for GCCS, it's only like 2 or 3 pages. I don't know how they got from that small to being, specifically to this length. I like this length because it's detailed very well. Of course, I saw a lot of red lines and stuff. It's still in work, and I thank you for that. And I think that's all I have. But also, I thank you and commend you for all your professionalism here in the APS school system. Please notify the Pueblo of Yakima if you do have any kids that you need help with. We're willing and able to engage and help you and help them get back on track. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do, as Lieutenant Governor did mention, we do need to spend some time on that IPP. But really quick, and I apologize, we didn't answer the governors on the attendance thing, that we do, per state, we do have to, and I think that's what you mentioned, all the schools, regardless, it's just an absence, but that doesn't mean at APS, we acknowledge in terms of a year going back for a tribal community, a ceremony, while technically it's an absence, but that should not be. We work with the student, we make sure that they have the materials they need. What do they need? And you're absolutely right that, I don't want to say a lot, all of what they're doing at home is tied to that. So how do we put that in as part of the academic piece? And so it's not looking like you're losing something, but you're actually gaining it on there. But I do want to say, I mean, no school system is perfect. If you have students that they are getting some pushback, that's why we're all here. And then, you know, we're still educating all of our teachers to make sure everybody understands that process on there. So I have one question, and then Ms. Chavez, you'll be our final answer.
I got it. We're short on time. So quick question. On the report on page 11, the last paragraph says that Native students graduate at 17 points lower in this district than in other parts of the state. So I was hoping that we could get kind of a quick rundown on what are the factors that contribute to that. And the other question I have is with regard to the disciplinary issue. Historical trauma is a real thing. And when I've spent about a decade being a tribal court judge, we were very careful about having our staff be trauma informed and providing services. Shaming and blaming and make wrong doesn't really help. So I'm curious if there have been any movement toward having staff be trauma informed.
So really quick on this one. So yes, trauma-informed is a huge area, and acknowledging that, you know, as Native people, we have historical trauma. Other groups as well have, unfortunately, their historical trauma. So that is a big that is something we're looking at. We're also looking at discipline, and we can talk more in this afternoon, as well as we can also provide some more briefs one-on-one with your Pueblo. We are moving to a restorative practices piece, which is based on Indigenous teachings and principles. So we're looking at, again, the question is, as Lieutenant Governor said, it's not that we're not disciplining, it's how you discipline, and that's a big change on that. For your question, I would need to look at the test report specifically for that, and maybe we can do that a little bit more one-on-one, because I think that's a larger kind of question on there, but absolutely. And then Ms. Chavez.
Thank you. I'll make this brief. I know everybody's ready for lunch. My question is in regards to our Zuni language classes, and first of all, I want to thank APS for offering the Zuni language classes and the Navajo language classes to our students. So thank you for that. And a concern was expressed to me in the past. I'm not sure if that is still the case, but it's regarding recruiting more Zuni students into the Zuni language classes. I know the instructors had difficulty recruiting students, but so my question to you, APS, is the Zuni language class offered as an elective to the students, or is it like an after-school program, or what is it? But because I've also heard that, I believe it was maybe an after-school program at one time, and the instructor was having a hard time recruiting students because some students chose athletics and all of that to do instead of doing the Zuni language class. And the instructor, and I believe the Zuni language classes were offered at different school sites where the language instructor was going from school to school using their own personal vehicle to teach the classes, and that was kind of like difficult for him. So I was not sure if that is still the case, but that's been expressed to me in the past. So thank you.
So Councilman Chavez, our Zuni language, and Jessica, if you want to chime in on this too, our Zuni language, they're actually courses. However, we do have, sometimes we'll do like some after school programming or events that might be like some language or cultural based, but our actual classes are classes on there that they would register for a class. It's one of those challenges when you have, 150 plus schools. There's no way that we're going to be able to have a language in every school. But we look at, again, kind of where's the higher proportion levels, transportation accessibility. And then we're also trying to kind of keep consistent. I know in the past we've kind of like started a program and then another year moved it. And so we're really trying to really strategically look at if we're starting a program at a school, like, is that the best place? Like, there's thought to it. Not that there wasn't before, but really look, is this something that we see ourselves investing in? Because also we don't want to move something and then all of a sudden that's something we've gotten from community that we're not sure where your classes are anymore. It used to be at this school, now it's at this school. So we're kind of looking strategically. So for instance, Zuni is a good example. We have the Duranis preschool, and then we now have Reginald Chavez, which is our primary school. They're close to each other, so like the kiddos and the families would connect. They also do events together, so your preschool at Duranis is, even during the school day, sometimes we'll go to Reginald Chavez and actually do events there. So the students are comfortable and they know that community. And then, so that's how we're like strategically looking at how we're moving it on there. But it is a challenge, and we're building it and we're committed to it. And again, always trying to figure out how to promote it as much as possible on there. So we can definitely continue to work on that. So thank you. I know we're actually at 12, but we really do need to honor, as the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, we do have our Indian policies and procedures. Those were sent out to you earlier. These are our guiding primarily for our impact aid. As you all are familiar, if you do get impact funding, you do have to have a process. They have to be reviewed annually. We're a little behind this year. Normally we do it in the fall, so expect a kind of a short turnaround next year. But the process is we have an Indian Policies and Procedure Committee. They've reviewed these. They started to review them in December, and we went to January. The changes you see on here, those little red marks, are what they recommended in terms of changes. There's a few red marks more from our policy analyst, and those are like, if you see like the numbers or those CF numbers, those were more hers in terms of just the technicalities. But those, the general red marks are what our IPP committee recommended we make the change. Then the next process is to provide it to you to review as our tribal leadership, ask you for your feedback on this, and then based on your feedback, then we go back and make changes. And then the final step is for our Board of Education to then take to honor those changes and make the final approval status. So right now, we have this consultation today, and then the board will take it up later this month, and then we're technically in compliance, if you want to call, with our IPP. Like I said, we're a little, just with some of the changes, we typically do this in the fall, so expect for next fall consultation, you'll be seeing this document again as well. So saying that, I know, Lieutenant Governor, why don't we start with you, sir, because I know you already had some comments on it.
Thank you for that. And just after reading the IPP, I noticed that in this document, you have some parts that say, we'll mail you the notice. Who has time to lick a stamp and send it in the mail, right? By the time your mail gets to us as tribal leaders, it's already been 2 weeks for some odd reason. I don't know why. But if you could kindly email us those notices for whatever engagement, hearings, meetings, and so forth in regards to the IPP. I would really truly appreciate it because I can't check the email. Anyway, also I noticed that in some parts you only mention tribal councils, but if you can add also tribal officials to the IPP. I also noticed that your notifications in some parts would only say 1 week. If we can get more time for any documents that are coming to the tribes, that we have adequate time for us to read and review. I mean, like I was reading this last night and I was like, wait a minute here. This 1 week does not work for me because just like your calendars are completely filled, and so we just need to find more time for us. If we can get the material at a faster pace to give us more time to think adequately. So I noticed that on one of the pages you reference the summer and fall for the IPP. Would it make more sense to have winter and summer? Because I think about our students for the first quarter and second quarter. I want to find out in between how the kids are doing, and then of course, what are the results of graduation? How did they do the second half? So that's the only one I had for that one. And you have there 10 days. Do you mean 10 calendar days or 10 weekdays? Because if you want, I need to clarify that. Yep. You
probably should put business days.
Business days. Okay. And then also, tribes should have input for modifications before you actually send it out. If you can do that, that'd be great. And then I think on the last page you put designated instead of designee. That was it. All right. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. It's not just me nodding and like saying yes. We do actually have Ms. Dina Ruiz is actually taking notes from all of this and making those edits on there. So thank you. Just a clarification with the week. What would you recommend? 2 weeks, 3 weeks? At least 2? At least 2 weeks? Okay. Does anyone else have any questions or comments about the IPP document? Are we good? Okay.
Thank you for an opportunity again to ask a question on the IPP. So I know these are designed for our students. If you can just help clarify, there's more than just students living on tribal lands that would qualify for impact aid. We have the Kirtland Air Force Base here. And we also have probably some of our students. I know I have a relative who is assigned to the space. So I don't know how that is also inclusive or if there's anything that you work hand in hand with the Kirtland Air Force Base. And then that goes to your 50-mile radius as well, because if you have a student who's beyond a 50-mile who is welcome to drive in, then they're also eligible for the impact aid on behalf of the Albuquerque. So if you can just clarify why that 50-mile radius is enacted, and then the clarification on the students who also benefit from the Kirtland Air Force Base. I haven't had a chance to review all of it, but I do appreciate this being released because I think when we talk about the language portion as well, I do want to highlight that the Navajo Nation invested in developing a government textbook, and this will allow access to our students. And I think language across the board should be readily spoken, regardless of the population, regardless of the audience, regardless of anything, because that is truly when we talk about the language and the cultural aspect that the conversation kind of led into during our last convening with the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Like I said, I missed. You can see it in a couple months on there. So with that, I'm sorry. Oh, I'll give it back to our MC.
So now this concludes our morning consultation, and now you will all be free for lunch. Lunch will be provided on the side over here. It is enchiladas with beans, salsa, and some Indian pies. Hope you all enjoy.
Hello? Okay. Our seats are, our rooms are right in the front, and we do have some staff who will kind of help guide you. So please, everyone's, if you're being really quiet, help yourself, have lunch. Thank you so much.